not a minor. We need our agencies, we need HPD to come to the table with solutions that stabilize developments that are already in distress, protect residents from displacement, and fundamentally strengthen the city's oversight so that we prevent the next crisis instead of merely reacting after a development has reached a breaking point. Created in 1955, Mitchell-Lama encouraged private developers to build rental and cooperative housing by offering low-interest mortgages and property tax exemptions. In exchange, owners accepted limits on their profits, resident incomes, rent levels, purchasing prices, and carrying charges. Since the program began, 269 developments containing more than 105,000 apartments have been built statewide. An estimated 170 of those are in New York City, and about 60% of those are supervised by HPD. These developments were made possible through public subsidies, and public oversight was intended to preserve their affordability, financial stability, and physical condition. For city-supervised developments, HPD approves budgets and rent or carrying charge increases, monitors finances, oversees tenant eligibility and waiting lists, and conducts inspections. The city and state have also invested significant public resources in preservation. HPD testified just earlier this year that its 10-year capital plan includes $1.1 billion for Mitchell-Lama housing, some of which was secured through this council through the City of Yes negotiations. While the state's fiscal year 2027 budget, as Chair Lee mentioned, includes $80 million in new appropriations accessible to developments in the city. And yet, despite decades of public oversight and substantial public investment, too many Mitchell-Lama residents are living with both deteriorating conditions and rapidly rising housing costs. At least 10% is our understanding of the city's remaining Mitchell-Lamas are experiencing financial distress. And in 2025 alone, 37 developments received rent increases averaging approximately 29%. Compare that to this year's 0% increase for rent-stabilized apartments. A March 2026 audit by the state controller found hazardous or unsafe conditions as well as structural issues at 12 of 15 developments examined statewide, including every single one of the 10 New York City developments that were sampled. The audit also identified approximately $2.3 million in misspent or inadequately documented funds. Those findings should set off alarm bells. They demand basic and urgent questions like how can housing that has been continuously supervised by the government fall into such severe financial and physical distress? Wasn't this oversight intended to prevent precisely this outcome? And if HPD has been monitoring these developments all along, when did it first see warning signs? What did it do in response? Were inadequate reserves, mounting debt, deferred maintenance, and deteriorating building systems allowed to reach crisis levels? And most importantly, what is HPD going to do differently moving forward? In addition to the situation at Tracy Towers, which we'll talk about at length, I highlight Kingsbridge Arms in my neighborhood, 2865 Kingsbridge Terrace, presents another deeply troubling example. The development has over $1 million in debt. Its physical and financial conditions have become so dire that management actually relies on additional debt to cover even basic operating expenses, including something as simple as trash bags for the garbage room, while major renovations and essential repairs remain unaddressed. Residents call us, they email our offices, they stop us at community events because they need help. In closing, HPD oversight should mean more than simply monitoring a building's decline and then presenting residents with enormous rent or carrying charge increases as the only available solution. It must mean proactive capital planning, maintaining adequate reserves, enforcing timely repairs, ensuring responsible management, requiring transparent accounting so that our affordable housing can remain as such in the long term. It must mean detecting distress early and intervening decisively before residents and developments reach a breaking point. We're looking forward to a productive and solutions-focused discussion because Mitchell-Lamas were founded on a public promise that New Yorkers can have safe, stable, and affordable home even if they could not afford the private market. Our responsibility is not simply to celebrate that promise, but to make certain our city is continuing to keep it. I look forward to testimony. And before I close, I want to just thank my team, Ben, Kim, Gerard, Dylan, Maria Jose, Soraya, and Oriana from our district, and the Housing and Buildings Committee staff, Senior Legislative Counsel Austin Malone, Legislative Counsel Billy Eck, Senior Policy Analyst Jose Conde, Policy Analyst Dirk Spencer, and Finance Analyst Carla Naranja and Spencer Kuhn. With that, back to Chair Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. So before we get started, I'd like to take a quick minute to thank the entire Council, Finance Division, Housing and Buildings, and Land Use staff for their efforts in preparing today's hearing. I know that you guys did a lot behind the scenes, so I really appreciate that. And I'll now turn it over to Committee Counsel to swear in the witnesses for their testimony. Sorry, really quickly. We've also been joined by Councilmember Mealy, as well as Councilmember Hudson, and Councilmember Riley, and Councilmember Ressler.
Good afternoon. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth before this council and the committee members? You may begin.
Great. Can you all hear me? Yes, okay. Good afternoon, Chair Sanchez and Chair Lee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm Adam Phillips, the First Deputy Commissioner of HPD, and I'm pleased to be joined by my colleagues Alika Ampry-Samuel, Deputy Commissioner of Asset Management and Property Management, and Julie Walpert, our Assistant Commissioner for Housing Supervision. The Mitchell-Lama program is a critical and unique part of our city's affordable housing stock. The program was created by the state legislature in 1955 to serve middle-class families, and since then, it has provided opportunities for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. Today, there are approximately 90,000 Mitchell-Lama apartments in 134 developments spread across New York City. Approximately half of these apartments are supervised by the city through HPD, and the other half are supervised by the state through HCR. Within HPD's Mitchell-Lama portfolio, 2/3 are co-ops and 1/3 are rentals. All Mitchell-Lamas, whether they are co-ops or rentals, are privately owned and managed housing companies that are subject to oversight by HPD or HCR. In a Mitchell-Lama rental building, a private landlord is the owner and is responsible for maintenance and long-term capital planning. Mitchell-Lama co-ops are controlled by their residents, who are shareholders. Each year, the residents elect a volunteer board of directors that has the responsibility of overseeing operations and long-term capital planning for their co-op on behalf of the shareholders. The responsibility to serve on a board of directors is great, and we thank all the residents who take on the task. We have seen thousands of New Yorkers build their lives in these affordable co-ops and rentals. Although the program was originally designed to house middle-income families, over time, Mitchell-Lamas came to offer New Yorkers at a range of incomes a chance to find stability in neighborhoods they love, giving them an affordable place to pursue their ambitions, raise their families, and age in place successfully. We are deeply committed to ensuring the affordability and physical condition of this stock for decades to come. While the Mitchell-Lama program has been incredibly successful at providing affordable housing to families across a broad range of incomes, it now sits at a crossroads. The portfolio faces rising operating costs, significant capital improvement needs, and uneven rental or maintenance fee income streams. We'll discuss each of these concerns in more detail and provide a path to stabilize the program for the years to come. The Mitchell-Lama portfolio has experienced massive increases in operating costs as seen across all types of affordable housing. Insurance premiums have skyrocketed. Utility costs are increasing. Salaries for maintenance and building staff have increased significantly. All these rising operating costs have made it more challenging than ever for Mitchell-Lamas to maintain a balanced budget, let alone chart a sustainable path for major capital improvements. Much of the Mitchell-Lama housing stock was constructed between 50 to 70 years ago. As a result, co-ops and rentals alike have major building systems nearing the end or surpassing their useful lives. The age of the housing stock, deferred capital improvements, and compliance with decarbonization requirements has led to high estimated capital needs amounting to billions over the next decade. In many cases, Mitchell-Lamas experience inconsistent rent or maintenance fee increases. This is a result of the unique regulatory structure of the program. Whereas rent-stabilized buildings follow a framework for rent increases as advised by the Rent Guidelines Board, Mitchell-Lamas follow a completely different process, determining their rent or maintenance fee increases based on the need to keep a balanced budget. Per state law, HPD is legally required to approve rent and maintenance fee increases up to the amount necessary to cover a building's costs. Failing to approve an increase could risk violating state law. It is not HPD's statutory role to determine whether to increase rents. The responsibility and decision-making around the process is in the hands of the private housing companies. When buildings finally do raise their rents or maintenance fees, it can sometimes be making up for many years all at once. HPD understands that this practice can be painful for tenants and shareholders, and HPD assists developments with reviewing their income and expenses to maintain a balanced budget. In 2025, 37 Mitchell-Lama developments saw rent or maintenance fee increases. These saw an average 29% increase over multiple years, comparable to the 30% at Tracy Towers. In this context, it becomes clear that Tracy Towers is not entirely exceptional. The financial challenges facing it are similar to those facing the portfolio as a whole. We are committed to reducing the number of households impacted by helping them take advantage of SCRI and DRI and advocating for additional rental subsidies from the federal government. We are also committed to reducing operating costs to minimize the necessary increases across the portfolio. In addition to the sometimes erratic frequency of rent or maintenance fee increases, statutorily, Mitchell-Lamas cannot increase rents or maintenance fees for only those who can afford it. Under the original bill text, higher income households cannot be charged a higher increase than their lower income neighbors. This is a common practice used to equitably support the finances of mixed income buildings, but this is not an option available to Mitchell-Lamas. While there is a modest surcharge for over-income households, it is capped by statute, meaning that we cannot use higher revenues from those who can afford it to cross-subsidize those who might not. These challenges are not insurmountable. Early on, this administration recognized the challenges facing the Mitchell-Lama portfolio, and we took proactive steps to address them. In the block-by-block housing plan, the administration laid out a plan to dedicate hundreds of millions of dollars across fiscal years 27 and 28 to specifically target capital improvements in city-supervised Mitchell-Lamas. We are also committed to taking a holistic, portfolio-wide approach to addressing the capital needs and broader challenges facing the city's Mitchell-Lama portfolio. Recognizing the importance of this housing stock and the challenges it faces, we committed to developing a comprehensive set of tools to put the Mitchell-Lama portfolio on a more sustainable path. To lessen the impact of rent and maintenance fee increases while ensuring a balanced budget, HPD commits to enrolling eligible households in SCRI and DRI. Recently, the statewide income cap for households eligible for SCRI increased from $50,000 to $75,000. With legislative action from the City Council, we can begin enacting this change on the local level. On the expense side, HPD's housing supervision team will continue to work with the private housing companies to contain operating costs. We are also exploring new revenue models to enable capital improvements and reduce, where possible, future increases. Some Mitchell-Lamas are exploring the sale of their parking lots and other undeveloped land where new housing would be built. This could provide millions of dollars to fund a trust that would offset increasing expenses, helping to minimize future rent or maintenance fee increases. It could also pay for climate upgrades and major capital needs such as roof repairs, elevator replacements, and more. In the process, it will also create more housing to help address our citywide housing shortage. We believe that with responsible financial stewardship and new investment, the Mitchell-Lama portfolio can serve New Yorkers for decades to come, allowing more families to stay in their neighborhoods while paying affordable rents or maintenance fees, or to experience the stability of homeownership for the first time. Thank you for sharing our concerns for the physical and financial future of these developments. After 70 years, their needs are great, but so is their potential. We will continue to work collaboratively with you all to protect these developments, maintaining their affordability and their physical upkeep for the next generation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Also want to recognize we've been joined by Jay Sanchez as well as Councilmember Brooks Powers on Zoom. And I'm actually going to first turn it over to Chair Sanchez for her questions.
Thank you, Chair Lee, and good afternoon again. Thank you so much for that context and testimony. My first question, I just want to start with something that you say in your testimony. HPD is legally required to approve rent and maintenance fee increases up to the amount necessary to cover the building's costs, and failing to approve an increase would risk violating the state law. I highlight this point in your testimony because it doesn't answer a question, a fundamental question that we here at the council have, which is what is HPD's asset management model? Are you fundamentally being proactive or reactive? Are you waiting for the buildings to come to you with an application for an increase, or are you monitoring as an agency the building's health and the financial health of the building so that you can smooth out over time the increases that are needed at the building?
So our housing supervision team works with the housing companies to regularly review income and expense statements from each housing company and their annual financial audits. So by reviewing the existing financials, we can work with the co-op boards or the private owners to come up with a plan to address any increases that could be coming up.
So then why is it that if you are regularly, as an agency, reviewing financials at a building, increases can be presented in a way that is making up for many years at a time?
So in some cases, we are planning for long-term capital improvements, and more often than not, Mitchell-Lamas won't come to us for the increase until the pre-development process is completed to do the capital work. So it becomes kind of one fell swoop of addressing any increases to meet operating needs and then support major capital improvements.
Okay, thank you. I still think that something is being missed here. If you are having regular conversations, there should be gradual increases over time. I think that's a direction the agency should try to move in to smooth things out for tenants and shareholders in these properties. So stepping back at a programmatic level, how does HPD understand its asset management responsibility after the initial development and preservation of the financing of a deal closes? Is the agency's model designed to prevent financial and physical distress, or primarily to intervene once a project has become high risk?
So after a project closes on financing with HPD, during construction, we monitor construction along with the private lender, which is typically HDC. So during construction, we're working monthly to ensure that requisitions are processed appropriately and that capital needs are being addressed. And then after the construction period ends, our housing supervision team continues to work with the board or the owner of the housing company to monitor income, expenses, and then future capital needs.
Thank you. What explains the 5-year increase in the mayor's management report's high-risk rental and cooperative indicators that are showing that we're moving in the wrong direction in terms of the physical stock in these properties?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Actually, so in the mayor's management report, there's been a 5-year increase with respect to HPD's management of high-risk rentals and co-ops. What explains that?
Are these Mitchell-Lamas specifically or rent-stabilized stock?
No, it is broader than Mitchell-Lama's, but includes Mitchell-Lama's.
So for any distressed portfolio or any distressed building, we will work with the owner to ensure that they can put together a loan application and enter our pipeline for a preservation outcome.
Great, thank you. I want to acknowledge that we are joined by Speaker Julie Menon, and I want to give her the floor.
Thank you so much. And really, I want to thank Chair Lee and Chair Sanchez for convening this very important hearing. So I've got an opening statement, and then I'm going to go right into questions and apologize for my tardiness, but we actually have a hearing across the street that I will just say is quite crowded on a very hot topic. First of all, for generations, New York City's Mitchell-Lama program has provided, as we all know, affordable and stable homes for working class families, for older adults, and for middle-income New Yorkers. These residents keep our city literally running. They are our teachers, postal workers, our caretakers, police officers. Allowing them not only to stay here, but to thrive here is absolutely essential to their future and to our city's future as well. So today's hearing comes at a pivotal moment. On June 25th, 2026, I and other elected officials penned a letter to the mayoral administration seeking answers on how the administration plans to address a proposed cumulative 30% rent increase at Tracy Towers. This rent increase has brought renewed attention to the financial challenges facing Mitchell-Lama developments across the city, rentals and co-ops alike. The president of the Tenant Association of Tracy Towers warned that if approved, some residents would be forced out of their units. Tenants' jobs, families, and homes are at stake. The tenants' lives literally depend on this response. While Tracy Towers is, of course, the immediate catalyst for this conversation and for this hearing, the issues before us extend beyond one single development. They raise fundamental questions about whether New York City is doing everything within its power to preserve affordability while ensuring the long-term financial health of its Mitchell-Lama portfolio. No one disputes that these developments are facing real financial pressures. Rising insurance premiums, labor costs, utility expenses, security costs, debt service, and decades of deferred maintenance have placed significant strain on so many buildings. At the same time, residents are asking difficult but very reasonable questions. If tenants are being asked to absorb rent increase approaching or exceeding 30%, why do longstanding maintenance issues persist? Why are buildings still grappling with aging elevators, deteriorating infrastructure, and other conditions that have gone unaddressed? And are rent increases becoming the default solution before every available financial and preservation tool has first been exhausted? Those questions have become even more pressing following the recent state controller audit, which identified chronic physical deterioration at many Mitchell-Lama developments, as well as weaknesses in financial oversight and accountability. The findings truly underscore that preserving these buildings requires more than just balancing operating budgets. It requires strong stewardship, transparent management, and strategic public investment as well. This hearing is not about questioning whether Mitchell-Lama developments need financial support. They do. It's about examining how that support is delivered and whether the city is making full use of the tools at its disposal before asking these tenants to bear the cost. We should be asking whether preservation financing, capital investments, operating subsidies, insurance reforms, refinancing opportunities, and stronger oversight of management practices can reduce the need for significant rent increases. We should also examine whether HPD's oversight framework provides sufficient transparency and accountability, whether residents have meaningful opportunities to participate in decisions that are affecting their homes and their livelihoods, and whether existing affordability protections, including proactive SCREE enrollment required under local law 44 of 2024, are being fully implemented. Ultimately, this hearing is about balancing two responsibilities that are not in conflict: preserving the financial viability of Mitchell-Lama developments while preserving the affordability that defines the very program itself. These goals must go hand in hand. I look forward to today's hearing and working collaboratively to identify policies which ensure that balance is being maintained. So I'm just going to jump right into my questions. We sent a letter on June 25th. And so I'd like to just get an update on some of the questions that we asked in that letter. First and foremost, to provide a comprehensive list of city-run Mitchell-Lama developments and the rent increases they have incurred over the past 10 years and the proposed upcoming rent increases.
So I think it would be easiest for us to supply that information after the hearing. It's a very long list with a long schedule of increases.
No, that's the purpose of this hearing. The purpose of the hearing is to go on the record and to talk about which buildings are getting a rent increase. I mean, look, we know about Tracy Towers, but we're hearing from Mitchell-Lama residents throughout the city who are saying they're getting a rent increase. So that's the whole purpose of this hearing. So we want that being discussed now.
Great. If you can just give us a second to go through our
Sure,
files.
absolutely.
So we'll work on, as the hearing's going on, if you don't mind, we can work on putting the list together and then report back later in the hearing.
I mean, I do just want to say we never received a response to our letter, and this hearing is upcoming. We are not asking some surprise question. This is literally something we asked on June 25th, and that you all should be prepared to be providing to us.
Understood.
Okay, I'm going to ask the second question then. Has a comprehensive review of the financial condition of all city supervised Mitchell-Lama developments, including which developments are currently experiencing financial stress or are projected to require the most significant rent increases within the next 5 years, been conducted? These are all from the letter. So again, these are not new questions. These are ones that we've asked you all weeks ago, and we've received no response.
So we regularly work with the Mitchell-Lama housing companies to review income and expenses, right? So we regularly get income and expenses and audited financials and work with the companies to ensure that we can minimize rent or maintenance fee increases.
So has there been a comprehensive review of the financial condition of all of the city supervised Mitchell-Lama developments?
We're regularly reviewing the financials of all city supervised Mitchell-Lamas.
And okay, can you share the results with these two committees?
For every single Mitchell-Lama
Yeah, I mean,
that's city
that's really
supervised?
that's the point of the hearing, is to look at the financial oversight.
I mean, I don't have that in front of me right now, unfortunately.
Okay, that is like basic information. I mean, we asked about this I'm just surprised we sent this letter that the administration is not prepared to answer the questions that we asked about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, I don't have that at my
Okay,
fingertips at the moment.
so we would like to get that, and we want that in the coming days. So that's a confirmation that these two committees will get that information.
We will work
coming
our
days.
best to supply you with that information.
Okay, the fourth question we asked in the letter was to describe the oversight and accountability mechanisms that HPD utilizes to ensure management companies fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities.
So we work with the private housing companies. The private housing companies, it's their responsibility to hire a property manager, and then we oversee the private owners and the co-op boards to ensure that the property managers are fulfilling their requirements per the property management agreement.
What are the additional resources and strategies that HPD plans to deploy to prevent rent increases similar to those that are occurring at Tracy Towers?
So we have screening already at our disposal, and we would request collaboration with the city council to, on the local level, increase the income cap from $50,000 to $75,000. So on the state level, that was legislated, but we still have to do something locally to ensure that the cap goes from $50,000 to $75,000. We also would appreciate collaboration with the council to advocate for additional federal sources. The biggest operating subsidy outside of screening that we could all advocate for is additional Section 8. That is a federal source that has been neglected, to put lightly, for quite some time. And we're working as best as we can to advocate for additional Section 8 resources to help mitigate any maintenance or rent increase.
And how many city supervised developments have closed under the Multifamily Housing Rehabilitation Loan Program or the Mitchell-Lama Reinvestment Program?
Yes, just 1 second, we have that. So currently we have 12 projects in our pipeline. We're looking for the number. I believe we have it with us for total projects that have ever closed on an HRP loan.
And what developments have applied for this? And has Tracy Towers applied for it?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Well, which developments? You mentioned 12.
Yeah.
Which developments? And then is Tracy Towers one of them?
So Tracy Towers is a two-phase closing. So we closed on financing at the end of June 2026. And then we expect by the end of calendar year 2027 to close on the second phase of financing. And
okay. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just to jump back, we do have the list of projects with the rent increases pending.
Okay. Will you just read them into the record? How many are there?
Let's see.
It's a large list. well, let me read it and then we can,
Sure.
and there are different stages of the.
So these are all the Mitchell-Lama, just to be clear, I want to make, these are all the Mitchell-Lama developments across the city that are going to face rent increases, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, well, they're in different stages of the increase
And
process.
can you specify the amount of the increase at the same time?
So I can specify the amount that they have requested, but we haven't done any of the reviews yet for the
Okay.
list that I'm about to name. First, and I think I'm not sure what the order is, so I'm just going to go through what they sent me. Washington Square Southeast is a co-op, and they're looking at a 3-stage increase of 15, 10, and 5. The next one is Sam Burt, which is also a co-op, and with both of those are just the applications were received, and that increase that they requested is 15, 7, and 7. And this is the co-op board requesting this. The next is Trinity House, which is a rental where the public hearing is scheduled, and that they're looking at 3 stages of 7, 7, and 7. The next is First Atlantic Terminal, which is a co-op, and they are looking at 2.5% and 2.5%. The next is Jefferson Towers, and they are looking at 10 and a 6, and the hearing is scheduled for there. Tracy Towers, we recently held the hearing. Masrick Towers is looking to increase their to 15 and 5. And Rupert House, the hearing was completed, and they're looking at a 15, 10, and 5. Lincoln Amsterdam, the hearing was completed, and they're looking at a 30 and a 10, but I just want to actually note on that one, they haven't had an increase in 25 years. And Jefferson also has not had an increase in many years. They both have commercial space that supports the developments. And those are that's what we have.
Okay, and how is HPD going to help these tenants who are all going to be facing very significant rent increases?
Yeah, so we do targeted outreach to enroll households that are eligible onto SCREE. And then I'll let my colleague, Alika, just talk a little bit about what our process is to do outreach to the households that are eligible for SCREE.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to just give you some highlighted, so it's like high-level numbers related to the question around the past 10 years and the proposed rent increases, because we can give you these numbers and then follow up with what these numbers actually mean. But I just wanted to get this on the record. We've had 37 Mitchell-Lama developments that saw rent and carrying charge increases in 2025. So 37 Mitchell-Lama developments saw increases in 2025. These saw an average of 26% increase over multiple years. And that was comparable to what Adam, First Deputy Commissioner, was saying with the 28% at Tracy Towers. But 15 were initiated in 2025, and the rest were initiated between 2022 and 2024. 25 of those involved a 20% or greater increase over several years. And 7 of those involved a 20% or greater increase in just 2025. 5 Mitchell-Lama developments have filed for and received rent increases so far this year in 2026. And the reason why I mention these numbers is because we have like the pattern and the trend, and we can provide you on an individual basis, working directly with the members on the developments within their districts that have asked for the increases and what's going on, because that's the work that our portfolio analysts actually do with the managing agents and with the shareholders. They go through these numbers on a regular basis, and we can provide you with that information because our portfolio analysts are the asset managers in our housing supervision department. And so they have this information. This is nothing that is all of a sudden happening. It's, you already stated it, we've seen increases recently that are drastic, but our portfolio analysts are in these buildings every single day. And so we have the information for you, and we can sit with each member.
So does HPD require an owner to demonstrate that they have exhausted all HPD HDC refinancing options before HPD approves a rent or carrying charge increase to fund repairs? And if not, why is that not a precondition?
No, we absolutely do that. When a rent increase comes in, we take a broader view of what is happening at the development. We're analyzing the expenses, we're analyzing the income, we're taking a look at the existing debt and how we can refinance or restructure some of that existing debt. So when the increase comes in, we're not just looking at only the expenses, we're looking holistically at the entire project to figure out what is going to be the best stabilization outcome for the development.
So for Tracy Towers specifically, what financial tools did HPD explore before determining this proposed approximately 30% rent increase?
So there's existing debt on the project, and there's new HPD capital that went into the project, and will go in 2 tranches. And the increase that the residents are experiencing is not going to pay for any of the debt service that's related to the city capital that HPD is putting into the project. So by ensuring that our debt isn't being paid at all by the residents, limits the amount of the increase. Additionally, the shelter rent tax was recently lowered from 10% to 5%, which I think we all know, which was really helpful to ensure that the increase wasn't as large as it would have been maybe a couple years ago without the lower property tax amounts.
Okay, one last question before I pass it over to my colleague. So in the fiscal 2027 executive budget, $100 million was added to support a city-backed insurance program. Will Mitchell-Lamas be eligible for the city-backed insurance program?
Yeah, absolutely. And more broadly, we're hoping that the insurance plan will not only benefit the units or the owners that go into the program, we're hoping that it'll move the needle on the entire market and lower premiums for everybody. That is the intent, is to lower insurance premiums for any project, not just the ones that enroll into the program.
Yeah, and I mean, I would note we are about to pass in the City Council our insurance accountability bill, which sets up a new first-in-the-nation insurance accountability office to lower premiums. So we look forward to working with the administration on that. Okay, let me pass it back over to.
I do have a list of the Mitchell-Lamas that closed on the HRP loans, the
Okay.
housing. So if you don't mind, I can.
Yeah,
read
if
those
you
off.
could read that in.
Riverbend, Ryerson Towers, Village East, Atlantic, Second Atlantic Terminal, sorry, Crown Gardens, Kings Bay 1, what does this say? Chatterton, Brighton House, Dennis Lane, High Lawn Terrace, Arvern Preservation. Oh, there it is. Sorry, the chicken scratch was a little hard to read. The Bronxwood Tower, Mazarek Towers, and Village East. And sorry, one more. Cedar Manual Mutual Housing Corp.
Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Chair Sanchez.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Oh.
Just could you clarify the list you were reading out, exactly what applies to those?
Oh, so these are all projects that have closed on HPD's multifamily housing rehabilitation loan program
Sorry, I just want to
since
quickly.
2021.
Okay. We've been joined by council members Aviles, Banks, Morano, Feliz, Farias, Majority Leader Abreu. Sorry, go ahead, Chairs. Oh, and oh, Councilmember Wilson. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you.
Wow, we have quorum. We can do stated now, Speaker. Okay. So I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, and then because we have so many colleagues here, just want to move things along. And the chair will ask her questions, and we'll go to colleagues. So just getting a sense of the physical conditions of Mitchell-Lama properties across the city, can you give us a sense of how often Mitchell-Lamas are conducting a physical needs assessment per property?
Yeah, so any project that's coming to HPD or HDC to get financing is required to complete what's called an integrated physical needs assessment. So the IPNA is used to assess the outstanding capital needs, short-term, medium-term, long-term, and it's also an energy audit and provides recommendations to do energy efficiency upgrades. So every project that comes through our pipeline is required to come with an IPNA. We are constantly seeing Mitchell-Lamas come to us for an IPNA or come to us with an IPNA to apply for city capital.
So of the 134 properties in the city, how many of those have come to the agency in the last 5 years, or whatever timeline you have the answer for?
Okay, so we have 90 developments in our portfolio. We don't have the exact number that have gone through that have a current IPNA, but all of the projects that I listed previously that received a loan through HRP, they all had IPNAs. And any project that's closed on financing with us recently would have completed an IPNA.
Thank you. So Mitchell-Lamas are not proactively conducting IPNAs. They are conducting them when they are coming to HPD for financing.
I would say some are and some are not. It depends on the individual housing company. It depends on the individual co-op. Some are more proactive with diagnosing capital needs, while others wait until the last minute. And this is not unique to Mitchell-Lamas. We see this with the privately owned rent stabilized stock as well.
And high school students that leave their homework for the last minute.
Yeah, exactly.
How does HPD?
I just want to just add, I'm not sure if we were talking about this number, but among the HPD supervised Mitchell-Lamas, we've had 48 that have had IPNAs performed since 2020, and another 6 are currently in the process of obtaining NYSERDA-funded IPNA, which HPD helped to facilitate.
The rest of them are?
6 are currently in the process, and we helped them to facilitate that conversation with NYSERDA.
So for the 48 IPNAs completed since 2020, do you have a roll-up number of the cost of the capital need in these 48 developments?
We can get that to you.
Okay, thank you. And then last question before going back to Chair Lee, how does HPD monitor whether rent and carrying charge increases or the work that you finance is translating into improvements in building conditions?
So the capital work is overseen by the private lender and by HPD. So monthly, when construction's happening, they have to requisition for construction loan funds, and the architect, the contractor, and a representative from the bank have to sign off that work was adequately done, and then the funds are released to pay for that work. So every month during construction, we have folks going out to ensure that the work is being done per the scope of work and drawings.
I'm sorry, I fibbed. One related last question is, okay, do you have a breakdown of HPD violations within the Mitchell-Lama portfolio?
Not offhand, but we can provide that. Yeah,
that would be helpful. Thank you. Chair Lee.
Okay, we've also been joined by council members Brewer and Epstein. And really quickly, just wanted to go into SCREE and DREE. So I know that Department of Finance manages the main rent freeze programs, and as part of their work, they use their data to estimate how many households are eligible for SCREE DREE. And their most recent report from 2025 estimates that there's about 8,000 households in Mitchell-Lama developments that are eligible. So out of those 8,000, how many of the housing units are currently enrolled in SCREE DREE rent freeze programs?
So SCREE is administered in Mitchell-Lamas by HPD, by our housing supervision team. And I think the data point of 8,000 or so households is probably just looking at purely income, and it's not looking at whether or not they have an existing rental subsidy. So if you have a housing choice voucher, which we call Section 8, you're not eligible for SCREE, and vice versa. You can only have one rental subsidy program. We have in our Mitchell-Lama portfolio on Section 8, we have 5,500 vouchers, and we have about 6,000 households who are on SCREE.
Okay. And what is the outreach like for it? Is there any additional targeted outreach to residents, that are subject to significant rent increases? And if so, was such outreach conducted for residents of Tracy Towers as well?
Yeah, I think I was alluding earlier that my colleague Alika will answer. So
Yes.
now's your time.
So within our housing supervision department, we have portfolio analysts who work with the managing agents and the shareholders related to like the finances, but we also have a team of constituent service coordinators. And those are the individuals who go into the building and work directly with the tenants. They're doing outreach and engagement. Thank you to some of the council members who work with our constituent services team to do workshops. Some of the council members have done workshops in their offices to assist. And so that team do the direct engagement. And it's almost like case management services where individuals who are not able to complete the applications or have the information, they hold their hands and go through every single detail, and then also look for, as benefit specialists, what else are the tenants eligible for, even down to working with HRA to see if there are any rental arrears. And so it's a whole process conducted by our constituent services coordinators.
Okay.
And
do you
of course,
go ahead.
the pre-filled SCREE applications, Councilmember Dinowitz, that's really, really helpful.
Yes.
We want to reduce the burden on the tenant to ensure that they can stay stably housed, and that was a big help.
Perfect. Thank you. And then tenants associations, also nonprofits, do you partner with any of those? Because when I was on the nonprofit side for many years, I know that we helped a lot of our residents and constituents and, do the casework like you're saying. So are there partnerships like that? And also, how many different languages are you assisting them in?
We are always looking for partners. This is a collaborative effort, and so yes, we do. And as far as languages, we actually have a language line that assists us with our
The city language line? Okay, because sometimes that's questionable, I'm not going to lie. But yes, okay. I mean, I will admit it is better to have some sort of assistance than none. But I would really encourage, especially there's a lot of culturally competent, language proficient nonprofits out there as well. So I know that they are doing this work on the ground, and so it'd be great to see the partnerships there. And what's the main what's the primary reason that eligible households, do not enroll? From what you're sort of hearing back when you do the outreach?
There are it runs the gamut. It could be anything from they may not enroll because of their income, other people in the household, and what we've seen also is just continuous engagement, reaching out to people, ensuring them that they should complete the forms. It's just so many different issues.
Yeah, which is why the pre-filled forms are hopefully going to help. And then also just considering, because I know that sometimes agencies work in silos and not, with all best intentions, I know they try to coordinate and work together, but how has that been with partnering with Department of Finance? Because I know that there probably needs to be a lot of coordination there. So how has that looked?
So we fully enroll and run the SCREE program for Mitchell-Lamas. So the overlap with us and DOF is very minimal. And not really necessary.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you want to mention DREE?
So, but the DREE applications are completed by Department of Finance. But when we go out to do a workshop, we'll bring DREE applications along with us so that we do coordinate with them.
Okay, perfect. And then in terms of the tax exemption and tax liability, in 2025, the state imposed a cap, as we heard before. And the cap for each development is either 5% if it's shelter, rent, or carrying charges. Presumably, some developments will not reach the cap because the value of their tax exemption entitles them to a lower tax liability. So how many Mitchell-Lama developments in the city will reach the cap this year, and how many will have a local tax liability less than the cap?
Yeah. So every Mitchell-Lama development has already moved from the 10% shelter rent tax down to the 5% shelter rent tax. We're also excited for J51 to be reauthorized because that is another tool in our toolbox if there's capital work happening to be able to lower their property tax liability. So if we can layer in, the lower 5% shelter rent tax with J51 as we're doing capital work, that's another tool that we could use to minimize the increases.
Okay. And how many Mitchell-Lama developments are delinquent by more than a quarter on their shelter rent tax, water bills? What's the total arrears?
I think we just checked this. It's about 47.5 million in arrears for property tax and charges that DOF administers. I don't have the number for water because we don't bill those.
Okay. And has HPD engaged with DEP on solutions for resolving? Because I know that those costs have also increased. So has there been any engagement in terms of how to bring relief for that as well?
We're looking at options internally to figure out a way to lower water costs for Mitchell-Lamas.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And considering the delinquencies are a red flag for the financial distress, how does HPD monitor these delinquencies, and what do you do when you see that the property is delinquent?
Delinquent for municipal, like property taxes? Yeah. So when we review the income and expense statements and the audits, we'll immediately see if there's property tax arrears or any other kind of municipal arrears. And we'll continue to engage with the housing company to ensure that they're going to put together a balanced budget and then start talking about what the increase would look like to satisfy the arrears. And we also use that as a jumping off point to figure out what kind of capital work can we address at the same time.
Okay. Sorry, and just to follow up to the previous question. So are you saying that no building will be charged less than 5% of the shelter rent or carrying charge?
Yeah, can you phrase that again? I'm sorry.
Sorry. So are you saying that no building will be charged less than 5% of their shelter rent, or did you mean the carrying charge?
The shelter rent. Okay. So every Mitchell-Lama is now paying a 5% shelter rent tax.
Okay. And have you compared the value of each development's exemption against the cap to determine which is lower?
I don't have that information on us, but I think the larger benefit is the 5% of the shelter rent tax.
Okay. Perfect. Also, just a side question, because this is a bill that we are looking at as well, but for Mitchell-Lamas, are you exempt, or are there any exemptions for Local Law 97 in terms of the future penalties that are coming up? Because I know those charges are going to be quite a bit.
Yeah, so they're exempt through 2035 or until 2035.
And then after 2035, because I know that it's increments of the increases, how much is it going to be increased to? Is it at a lower percentage than some of the other co-ops? And resident?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but
Okay.
we can supply that.
Okay, only because I know with insurance costs and everything else going up, that could be a potential cost in the near future that would be big. But hopefully the J51s and everything else will help as well. Okay, and then just last couple questions on the capital funding. Do you provide expense funding to Mitchell-Lamas either for non-capitally eligible repairs or for general operating support?
No, we don't provide tax levy or expense funds for Mitchell-Lamas. We only provide, like any other affordable housing project, we can only provide city capital to pay for capitally eligible rehab items.
Okay.
Again, the biggest benefit, or one of the largest benefits that we could get, is additional Section 8 to mitigate the rent increases, which I think we all know is an uphill battle.
Yes. Definitely. Okay. And during the FY27 preliminary budget hearing, HPD had testified that the agency has, as the speaker mentioned, spent $1.1 billion for Mitchell-Lamas over the past 10 years. And has the amount of capital spending changed since the preliminary budget? And how much capital funding has been utilized for Mitchell-Lama preservation in FY25 and 26?
So the total preservation budget for fiscal year 27 is $1.32 billion. And of that, Mitchell-Lama developments will benefit and will receive some of that.
Okay. Do you know how much?
Yeah, so we're expected to preserve in fiscal years 27 to 28 about 2,800 units, plus or minus. It'll depend on the overall capital needs and the overall construction costs as we get closer to closing.
Okay. Have the capital commitment rates changed significantly over the past 10 years?
like the amount that we're lending
Yes.
to Mitchell-Lamas. Yeah, I mean, I think it's gone up over the past 10 years. We've been committing more city capital than we previously had. And in the housing plan, there's a lot, there was specifically hundreds of millions set aside and called out just for Mitchell-Lamas, which I'm pretty sure has not happened in the past.
Okay. And also moving to the exec plan for FY27, we saw a total capital commitment of $4.9 billion for preservation for the 5-year capital plan, as well as a $500 million total increase in FY31. So how much of the 5-year capital commitment plan is budgeted for Mitchell-Lama preservation?
So we don't break out specifically for Mitchell-Lamas versus other rent stabilized stock that's coming through our preservation pipelines. But we have more capital than we have in the past, and we know that the needs are pretty significant in Mitchell-Lamas. And as they work through our pipeline and they're prepared for construction loan closing, we'll deploy capital as needed.
Okay. And then just in terms of how you're determining how many units, since you don't separate it out, are you seeing year over year though that percentage-wise it's pretty similar year over year, or have you seen significant increases, decreases, and what has caused that?
Right. Yeah. I think we've seen increases in the amount of Mitchell-Lamas that are coming to us. I think there's probably 2 reasons. I think one is just the age of the housing stock. Some folks, and it's not unique to Mitchell-Lamas, can put their heads in the sand and hope that they don't have to do their capital needs, and then they wake up and it's time. I think in other cases, when our housing supervision team is working with the Mitchell-Lamas, we want to make sure we're addressing capital needs, and I think we've been a little bit more forceful with saying it's time to. We really need to do a preservation outcome here.
Okay, perfect. I just want to recognize we've also been joined by Councilmember Wong and anyone else that I missed. Okay, so we're gonna move into questions of our council members and colleagues, and so I want to start with Chair Dinowitz, followed by Councilmember Hudson. Oh, right, you're de facto chair. Okay.
Thank you, actual Chair Lee. And I want to thank Chair Sanchez and Speaker Menon for their support in this, not just for the residents of Tracy Towers, some of whom are here, but for residents of Mitchell-Lama throughout the city. And thank you for signing the letter. This is really critical. And I want to thank you, HPD, for coming to Tracy Towers. And I think Mitchell-Lamas were designed for working class and middle class families. And you saw and you know the promise of Mitchell-Lama. And you saw firsthand what happens when we disinvest from our Mitchell-Lama housing stock. That the residents of Tracy and residents throughout the city are not only being hit with a 31% rent increase, but living with rats, living with mold, living with leaky roofs, living with unrepaired elevators, even though the money was put in for all that. I think the amount of time we're spending on SCREE is a little ridiculous. It is a Band-Aid to the structural problems. Nevertheless, it is a solution to some of them. So I do want to ask quickly, are you in compliance with Local Law 44 of 24, my bill, to provide pre-filled SCREE applications to residents of city-run Mitchell-Lama housing?
Yes, we're fully in compliance.
I have had numerous people come to my office eligible for SCREE, and we have had to assist them in filling out these SCREE applications. It is my belief that you are not fully in compliance, given that we've had to fill out so many applications. Can you tell me how many applications, pre-filled applications, have you sent out to residents of Mitchell-Lamas?
So Julie just mentioned a good point. The increase hasn't gone into effect yet. So the applications aren't pre-filled until the increase actually happens. So no increases have happened at Tracy Towers yet. They're planned.
There were still people at Tracy, and I think last year the previous commissioner testified he was fully in compliance. Nevertheless, still this year we are filling out SCREE applications. So it should have been the case even last year that they would have filled out those applications because you would have received their income affidavit at that point. I want to move on from that because you can see tons of people here, all of whom their Mitchell-Lama is facing upwards of 20%, 30% rent increases. Deputy Commissioner Phillips, you testified HPD is legally required to approve rent and maintenance increases up to the amount necessary. I want to understand this a bit. Has there ever been a time that you have rejected a proposed rent increase from someone seeking a rent increase?
I don't have that knowledge off the top of my head, but To ensure that the building is operating appropriately, we want to make sure that the income can cover the expenses.
I understand what the purpose of the rent increase is, which again, 31% is outlandish. And I do have to say, for the residents of Mitchell-Lamas, for the residents of Tracy, Cannon, Kingsbridge Arms, all in my, some in my district or near my district, 31%, 40%, 50%, I think anywhere is a big increase. But it is not only big, it is in the face of an administration who's made affordability a centerpiece of their campaign and who campaigned on 0% rent increases. So it isn't just about saying the rent increase is too much. It is about what it feels unfair to see that disparity. But my question still is, has HPD ever rejected or modified a proposed rent increase, or has it served as a rubber stamp for the company seeking the rent increase?
No, we've modified in the past, and the way we'd be able to modify an increase is if we can find a way to lower expenses, right? So when the rent increase comes in, it has to cover operating expenses. We know operating expenses are wildly out of control everywhere.
I
right?
want to talk about one of those operating expenses,
Sure.
right? Because for Tracy Towers, in their financials for fiscal year 25, security costs total about $1.8 million in the fiscal year ending 25. In FY27, they jumped to $2.8 million. That's nearly a 50% increase in that 2-year period. That's $267 a month per unit in security costs. Now, as you say you go over these financials, does that seem like a reasonable amount for security costs to increase?
I mean, that's quite a large increase. I'm not going to
Yes.
say it's not. We are bringing in the property management firm to meet with HPD to go into even more detail than we already have in the past to get a better understanding.
But I'm sorry, but you're doing this after the rent increase was already proposed. So help me understand what work HPD does before they even propose an outlandish 31% rent increase on these hardworking tenants. And we have one example here of a 50% increase in security costs alone. Help me understand what work you're doing beforehand.
So the rent increase has not gotten to effect yet. It has not gone into effect. We do our
But it's
analysis.
been proposed and
It's been proposed. Absolutely. It's been proposed, and it's a requirement so we can close on the capital financing to start addressing some of the urgent physical conditions. Now that we've closed on financing, the increase has not gone into effect yet. We still have a chance to work with the property management firm to take an even deeper look at the operating costs. We're not stopping just because the increase has been approved.
I will note that your hearing was at 4 o'clock, and to many tenants at Tracy Towers who have jobs, made it impossible for them to attend in the community room or to testify online. And I would urge you in the future, knowing that so many middle class and working class New Yorkers live in these Mitchell-Lama developments, to have these hearings at a time that actually meets the needs of the residents who live there. I want to talk about the fiscal. So it's unclear. So you have to submit. I want to get this right. You have to submit whatever the management company says they need the increase to be publicly, and then you go over what it should be.
We do an additional review. I mean, it's
so you
it's a
review
multi-step
beforehand
process.
before they propose it. You then present it at a public hearing,
That's right.
and then you do an additional review. But I just want clarity. Did you before the public hearing, did you review the financials?
Of course, we're constantly reviewing the financials of every Mitchell-Lama development.
I don't want to harp on the security costs, but it doesn't look to me like you went over the financials beforehand. I mean, that is a huge red flag, an increase of 50% for the security costs alone.
Yeah, I mean, it is a large increase, but we are going over the expenses, and we're going to continue to go over the expenses to see where we can cut.
Okay, and I want to talk about capital needs. I mean, brief history of Tracy Towers. Tell me if any of this is off base. All right, this is according to financial documents for Tracy Towers. In 1971. It was built with a $40.7 million loan. It was a low interest, no interest loan. That was part of the Mitchell-Lama program. And by 2012, Tracy owed the principal and an additional $106.2 million in interest. Does that sound accurate?
I mean, I'll have to look more deeply into the existing debt on Tracy Towers. So deferring and accruing.
So when the development was first being, developed, there was supposed to be a federal subsidy that would bring down the interest rate. And prior to occupancy, that subsidy was withdrawn. So, again, that predates me. I've been here forever, but that still predates me.
I guess not forever, but the question is still, we started with a $40.7 million loan, and by 20
subsidize the interest rate or the interest rate payments. Is that right? And without that subsidy, that is the result.
over the course, so it sounds like over the course of 50 years, HPD did nothing to try to lower those interest payments, didn't do anything to pay off the principal, and now residents today are paying the price.
I mean, I wouldn't agree with that statement, Julie. Do you?
That's why I'm asking you to please clarify the history.
So
And this
I
is going to
think
be
if
my
we
last
had-
because I'll come back for a second round if that's okay, because I know there's a ton of other
If
people.
we had addressed those arrears, it would have been on the tenants to address those arrears. And so what HPD and HDC worked together to balloon those arrears, put them aside, not require any payment on them, and it will just remain affordable for 50 years at this point. But it was actually done that way to protect the tenants so that they wouldn't have rent increases to pay the debt service.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on this later, but we have a ton of other people. Thank you so much, Chairs, for the opportunity. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we have Councilmember Hudson, followed by Councilmember Riley.
Thank you so much, Chair. Just a couple of quick questions. What accountability measures are in place to ensure that loans and grants awarded for Mitchell-Lama capital improvements are used effectively, completed on schedule, and produce measurable improvements for residents?
So prior to construction, we require, like I mentioned before, the IPNA, which outlines the potential scope of work. Then we have an architect work to develop the scope of work and a contractor that completes the scope of work. During construction, HPD and the private lender monthly go to the building to ensure that work is completed, and then after that work is completed, payment is released to the contractor. So every month there's the lender and HPD, if we have city capital in the project, monitoring construction to ensure that the capital is spent correctly and in accordance with the scope of work.
And so that would obviously be the case at Tivoli Towers?
That should any project that HPD lends on and any private lender. Yeah, so HDC as the private lender would do monthly walkthroughs for the construction period.
Okay, it would be great. My office will follow up with you directly on that because Tivoli Towers has had ongoing construction for years and continues to find new issues and concerns, and so I'll follow up on that one. Okay. For Mitchell-Lama households that do not qualify for SCREE and DREE, but still cannot afford rent increases, what additional assistance or policy options is HPD considering to help prevent displacement?
So ideally, we would be able to offer Section 8 vouchers to those households. Unfortunately, we're in shortfall, so we don't have that ability at the moment. I would say the best thing we can do is advocate for additional federal resources so we have more Section 8 to offer tenants.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Riley, followed by Banks.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I just want to share the same sentiments as Councilmember Dinowitz. I think Tracy Towers, a lot of residents are truly afraid right now. They don't know what's going to happen with these increases. So I think that's where you hear the passion and you see a lot of the residents that are here today. The administration has committed hundreds of millions of dollars in FY27 and FY28 for capital improvements, how much money is specifically dedicated to city supervised Mitchell-Lamas, and how were those developments selected, and how much will that investment reduce projected residence increases?
So we don't break out our total preservation budget by the Mitchell-Lama stock versus other types of affordable housing stock that come through our pipeline. Whenever there's a Mitchell-Lama development in our development pipeline, we work as quickly as possible to close on financing. Sometimes it can take quite some time because of the pre-development activities that are required to get ready for the loan closing. Doing the IP&A for a large development usually takes quite some time. Then you have to hire a design team to be able to put together the scope of work and drawings. Then we have to get approvals from DOB. The project has to be competitively bid to a contractor. And then, as you can imagine, we have a lot of due diligence that we put people through to get through a loan closing. So all of that can stretch out the development timeline for some folks, but we work in tandem and closely with the housing companies to get them through that development process as quickly as possible.
Can HPD commit to providing the council with a development by development capital needs assessment for all city supervised Mitchell-Lamas?
We have, and I think my colleague Alika said before, the total number of Mitchell-Lamas where we have existing IP&As. So we can take a look. Do you want to?
Okay.
We can provide you with the list that we have and work with your offices on the costs associated with the IP&As.
Thank
That would
you.
be a great
Thank you.
collaboration.
Your testimony discusses selling parking lots and undeveloped land to generate revenue. What protections will be placed to ensure residents are meaningfully involved before land connected to their development is sold or developed on?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that I think it would be a little bit different for the co-ops versus the rentals. So for the co-ops, they would be completely driving that process, right? The board of directors has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that they're doing capital planning and reporting back to the shareholders. So that would be more of a collaboration directly with the shareholders and more up to the shareholders to see what they want done with their land if they have the space to develop. With the private rentals, I think the situation would be a little bit different, and we would make sure we do outreach to work with the housing companies and engage the tenants. So any undeveloped land is benefiting the existing residents in the development.
I just want to actually add the fact that we're sitting here talking about the operating costs and some of the subsidies that we don't have access to right now, like the Section 8 vouchers. And so we need to be creative on ways to be able to get more resources into these buildings. And so if we're talking about the opportunity to develop on land, we need to really have those conversations in a thoughtful way. And so I just wanted to lift that up because if we don't have tools, this could be one of them. And we've seen this play out in other housing portfolios.
And I think the council is ready to work with you guys on being innovative and coming up with those creative ways. My last question is, you stated that Tracy Towers is not exceptional to this, but respectfully, isn't that the problem? Because if 30% increase are becoming a common across portfolios, that demonstrates a systematic failure that we have within our system. So I think there are creative ways that we could think about improving this down the line, because I do think no one here believes that 30% increase in anything is something that's substantial.
Yeah, and we're happy to work together with folks to take a look at more creative ways to reduce operating expenses, right? Like the reauthorization of J51 is a really good tool that we could use to layer into the 5% shelter rent tax to lower expenses. So more collaboration on things like that would be great.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Banks followed by Jay Sanchez.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to thank the Speaker and the entire leadership in bringing this hearing together on capital investment and preservation of Mitchell-Lama. Recently, there was an audit by the State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, which identified persistent unresolved issues across Mitchell-Lama developments, including mold, pest infestation, infrastructure deficiencies, and other hazardous conditions that directly impact residents' quality of life. Given the significant capital needs facing many Mitchell-Lama properties, what specific investments has the city made to preserve and rehabilitate this housing stock, particularly city supervised developments? And additionally, how has HPD measured the effectiveness of those investments? And can the agency provide examples of where capital funding has resulted in measurable improvements for residents?
Yeah, so I mean, we're happy to work with every development that's in our pipeline and is willing to come into our pipeline to do a major capital improvement project. When we do a major capital improvement project, the goal is to cure underlying conditions, right? So we want to make sure that we're addressing the most hazardous and urgent conditions first, and then ensuring that we get to the rest of the work that's outlined in the IPNA and the scope of work.
And any examples that you could give us?
Of a successful loan
Yes.
closing and improved conditions. I think we'll be able to. I mean, I don't have one off the top of my head unless Julie, you do.
Okay,
but
you
we're
can
happy to
you can
provide
you can
samples.
give that to the committee later. Pass it down.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. When it comes to accountability, the Mayor Mandami campaigned on both affordability and accountability, particularly as it relates to housing. When serious deficiencies are identified in Mitchell-Lama developments and remain unresolved for years, who ultimately bears responsibility? Is it the building management, the cooperative boards, the contractors, or the oversight agency themselves? And more importantly, what concrete accountability measures has the administration implemented to ensure all parties are meeting their obligations and that both taxpayers and the residents are seeing tangible results for every public dollar invested?
So we have a authority to oversee the Mitchell-Lama developments, and part of that authority is to review the financials and ensure that the project is being managed appropriately. Again, I think the situation's a little different when it comes to the co-ops versus the rentals.
Right.
But obviously, we want to provide as much support and technical assistance as we have available to ensure that these developments don't get into this situation in the first place.
And when it comes to financial stability, a recent City Limits article highlighted a Mitchell-Lama development in the East Village that is considering selling a parking lot to generate revenue for capital improvements and raising operating costs. Does HPD view these type of asset sales as innovative preservation tools, or as a warning, a sign of deeper financial distress within the Mitchell-Lama portfolio?
I'm a glass half full kind of guy, so I'm going to say that it's an opportunity. It's a massive opportunity for the Mitchell-Lamas to be able to use undeveloped land and come up with a completely different source of funding that we don't have available to us right now. I would say it's incredibly innovative, and it's something that we would want to work with co-ops and private rental companies with, and in conjunction with the city council to ensure that it's equitable development.
Can I just add one thing? I know
Go ahead.
just because your colleague just walked in
Oh,
and
I've
we
seen this.
had, and I wanted to say again, you'll hear me say this over and over, this is a collaborative effort. We have to do this together. And thank you, council member, for having a conversation with our team about the development in your district and
I get it. It is in my good friend's district, but there's obviously opposition to it as well. And that's obviously been pointed out in the article. But nevertheless, I guess the conversation needs to be had because, obviously parking is a large need throughout the city. And this obviously, we should definitely be, what should be part of the conversation is continue to take the pressure off of the need for parking. And my last question, and hopefully the chair will indulge me, Linden Plaza, which is in my district, which is city supervised Mitchell-Lama. I would like to, which is a Mitchell-Lama development in my district, and which currently is undergoing major rehabilitation. Prior to these investments, residents endured deteriorating conditions for many years. As someone who regularly visited this development, knocked on many doors, I personally observed the deterioration that was taking place in Mitchell-Lama and the concerns that existed. Going back to oversight, what oversight responsibilities did HPD have before this rehabilitation effort began, and how were these conditions allowed to deteriorate to such an extent before meaningful intervention had occurred?
Yeah, so our oversight authority, like I mentioned, is reviewing financials and providing some sort of technical assistance and advice to the owners and to the management companies and to the shareholders. I think the outcome of Linden Plaza is actually a really positive one, and from what I've seen so far. And maybe I'm talking out of line here, but I think where Linden Plaza got you today is a really good place compared to where
And
it
I would
was.
agree. It's definitely it made a lot of progress in Linden Plaza, but also to the question of accountability, because the management company that ran Linden Plaza into the ground, we need to hold them accountable, and that's the reason why I'm bringing that up. There has to be some type of justice still exacted on those folks who put them in that condition by doing refinancing the property and not investing it into the development. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just say one quick thing? I just want to highlight that when the team at HPD and others visited Tracy Towers, we went intentionally. We left Tracy Towers and we went to Linden Plaza to look at like just some lessons learned and best practices, and that was intentional that day. So I just wanted to actually highlight that.
Thank you. Jay Sanchez, followed by Councilmember Farias.
Thank you, Chair Lee, and thank you, Chair P. Sanchez, for helping to put everything together today. Howdy, everyone. So a few questions. So 2 Mitchell-Lama developments in the South Bronx, Mins Plaza and OUB houses, have numerous really hazardous violations and they're both run by the same management company. So when a single manager across shows a pattern of neglect across multiple of their portfolio projects, what tools does HPD have to intervene at the management level rather than building by building?
So at a minimum, we would bring in the property management firm to talk about the conditions, right? Like I mentioned for Tracy Towers, we're bringing the property management firm in to discuss what exactly has happened in Tracy Towers, and is it indicative across their entire portfolio? We would be happy to call in the same property manager or whatever the property manager is at these 2 developments and have a conversation with them to do a much deeper dive than we have in the past.
So there's no automatic trigger or alert or notice that you get once a developer or a property owner receives a certain number of violations across a number of their portfolio projects?
So we have HPD's code enforcement team has, there's the AEP program, there's 7A, underlying conditions program. Mitchell-Lamas are not exempt from those programs.
Okay. Similarly, does HPD have the authority to remove or disqualify a managing agent from Mitchell-Lama developments? If so, is there a threshold there that would trigger that?
So we do have the authority. I don't believe that there's a specific threshold, but we are able to work with the housing company to find a new property management firm if that's what the residents want and what the shareholders want.
Has there been what is the history of that? What was the latest one? How frequent or unfrequent does this happen?
I actually just wanted to lift up that we're seeing just challenges with property management companies and managing agents across every housing portfolio that you can imagine. And so whereas in the past we would deal with building specific issues, we are, as the first deputy commissioner mentioned, really working with the entire portfolio of the managing agent. But I also want to say that we are seeing more management companies leave out of the portfolio, and there is a conversation of how do we get more property management companies to be interested in working with our portfolios. And again, this is not just specific to Mitchell-Lama, it's the entire, like what we're seeing across the housing industry when it comes to property management.
And can you talk to any relationships that you have with these agents? I mean, a lot of the times they hide behind not particularly in Mitchell-Lama, just hide behind these pseudo corporations that you can't get in touch with people, and then you have to work with them. How has your experience been with these managing agents and being able to actually get responsiveness, delivery for residents, delivery for tenants, and ability for council members to then work with you and work with the managing companies to really get
I mean,
things done?
I think the majority of property management firms, and not just the Mitchell-Lama stock, but the broader affordable housing stock, if we call them, they will come in to meet with us.
Great. And how frequently does HPD audit the books of the city's Mitchell-Lama developments?
Let's see, we require annual financial statements and annual audits, and then our housing supervision team reviews the annual financials that are submitted.
And finally, research, if I may. Research on my district shows I have a development that has over $1 million in shareholder arrears. When arrears signal that the current changes are unaffordable, how does HPD couch for the rent increases, such as those at Tracy Towers, with the program's purpose of affordability? Is the agency identifying a point at which rent increases become almost self-defeating?
So the biggest operating subsidy source that we have, like I've said before, is Section 8, which is a federal source that we need to advocate together to get more of. That is our main, besides that, there's scree and DRE. Those are like the three main sources for operating subsidies. We don't have, our city capital cannot be used as an operating source. It's only for construction.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Farias, followed by Eldwell.
Thank you so much, Chair Lee and Chair Sanchez. I really want to begin by being as clear as possible. Mitchell-Lama residents have waited far too long for meaningful accountability. State audits have repeatedly documented unsafe living conditions, financial mismanagement, and failures in oversight, while too many residents continue to struggle with unresolved complaints, deteriorating buildings, and significant carrying charge increases. It's why I'm also the prime sponsor of a resolution being heard today, Reso 83, urging the state to establish stronger protections and independent oversight for Mitchell-Lama residents. But today is really about the city's role. We have an obligation to examine whether our own agencies are exercising the level of oversight and enforcement that residents deserve, and why these conditions have been allowed to persist despite years of documented warning signs. These failures are not abstract. They have real consequences for New Yorkers, as we've already heard from my colleagues, and in fact feel systemic. When Mitchell-Lama developments fall into financial distress because of poor management, inadequate oversight, or years of delayed adjustments to carrying charges, residents are ultimately the ones who are paying the price. Buildings deteriorate, essential repairs are deferred, and when the financial reality can no longer be ignored, residents are often confronted with steep and sudden increases that many, particularly our seniors and those living on fixed incomes, simply cannot afford. This housing was supposed to be these steps to create generational wealth and home ownership that can then be passed on. We saw this firsthand at Jamie Towers in my district, where proposed increases threatened to displace long-term residents from the homes they had counted on remaining affordable. That experience underscored for me that we cannot continue responding only after a crisis has developed. We need stronger oversight, earlier intervention, and greater accountability to protect both the financial health of these developments and the residents who call them home. I'm now going to turn to my line of questioning, Chair. Has the administration put into inception, or at least plan to provide new safeguards such as reporting and monitoring to ensure that the example I gave at Jamie Towers does not occur and maintenance charges can keep up with the requirements?
So like I said before, we continuously review every development's financials, and as we're still looking for more tools in the operating expense toolbox, right? J51 paired with capital improvements, the J51 benefit could really go a long way to help mitigate the increase of rent or maintenance fees. So that's where we want to continue to look for more resources and to try to get a little bit more innovative. On the income side, scree and DRE are tools that we already have. The increase at the state level for scree from $50,000 to a $75,000 limit once that's enacted on the local level, that should be able to help some of the seniors who are on fixed incomes. They might not have been eligible for before, but they will be eligible going forward as long as they earn less than $75,000. And then lastly, again, it's the question of the operating subsidy, right? Like if we can advocate for more Section 8, that can ensure that households are better able to absorb the increases.
But I don't think this is only about those cases that you mentioned. There's what we're seeing happen across the board, and I know you folks are familiar with this, a 50% increase in one fiscal year or really overnight for people, the same as what I'm seeing on my side of town with the lending capacity being extremely limited because of 20 or 25 years of a management company that is supposed to have the oversight of city agencies that are supposed to catch early on that boards are not approving a 2% increase into coffers to ensure that in 10 years or 15 years when we need elevator replacement, roof replacement, modernization, local laws that come into play that have to be implemented by the boards and by the Mitchell-Lama campuses themselves, there's money there to do that. I mean, we're now doing increases where we're asking people overnight to catch up on 20 years of poor management from the city and the state, and also no increases that they have enough coffers or have enough lending capacity to make the repairs or to implement the local laws that we're putting into play. What are you folks doing to look at how do we not do a 50% increase overnight and to provide some stability or some flexibility to allow a long run of transition to get them to a place where they financially have capacity to stay in their homes and also make the repairs that are necessary?
Yeah, so typically when we do increases with the city supervised Mitchell-Lamas, and I think the Mitchell-Lama you might be referring to as a state
Yep.
supervised.
I
Okay.
have both city and state in my
but
district.
similar conditions across both, right? Different oversight, different authorities. We try to stagger the increases as best we can, right? We take a look at the operating expenses. We take a look at the new debt that is taking care of the capital improvements. We try to stagger the increases as best we can so it's a bit more manageable for households over a longer term, and so it's not just overnight.
Okay, so what happens in the case of Councilmember Eric Zinowitz's district where there's a 50% increase at Tracy?
That's not overnight.
How many meetings did you folks have to have that increase roll into play? Like when did they find out, and how much did they know ahead of time that they were getting a 50% increase?
Oh yeah, it's the increase isn't in place yet.
I heard that earlier. I'm asking, leading up to it, how
Leading
much
up to
time
it?
was given to the families in Tracy Towers that they were going to get?
I mean, at a minimum, we had.
As obviously, like I'm being a bit facetious with overnight, right? But like, what's the time frame?
Right. So there was the 30-day notice, which
Got it.
we're
So not
required to
overnight, but
do.
just in 1 month. Okay.
The increase hasn't gone into effect yet.
I understand that, but still, right? When we have inflation, when we have an affordability crisis, even 30 days or 3 months is not going to be sufficient amount of time for families. You're asking people to find completely different careers or get promotions in a short amount of time. And if they're retired or on a fixed income, yeah, I'm preaching to the choir on this dais, and I'm sure to the crowd, but it's still not a manageable amount of time for such an increase. And I think we all can agree on that. A few more questions, if I may, chairs. Thank you. Is HPD required to help close out projects at Mitchell-Lama housing developments that are unable to do so due to lack of resources and personnel? Often in my district, members designate capital dollars, but their projects are stuck on hold, waiting for a project manager from HPD. In light of this, and with some of the projects stuck for multiple years, will the administration be working closely to close those projects for our Mitchell-Lamas, and by what means and methods?
So by close out, I'm taking that to understand to close on construction financing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as part of the housing plan, and we've been able to staff up our preservation finance team with a lot more staff, right? So if we have more staff in our preservation finance team, we're able to assign more projects to them and work through the pipeline more quickly. So with that additional staff and with additional capital resources, we should be able to move more Mitchell-Lamas through the development pipeline more quickly.
Have you guys projected how many projects you have outstanding and if the personnel is going to be able to assist with getting those done and what's the timeline fashion?
So we have, I believe it's 12 Mitchell-Lamas in our pipeline right now, which means they're gearing up and getting close to closing. Every Mitchell-Lama and every, regardless if it's a Mitchell-Lama or not, every project has its own unique development timeline based on the capital needs, the scope of work, and the development team that's working together to get to the construction loan closing. So depending on the capacity of the board or of the owner of the Mitchell-Lama, that can play a little bit into the timeline.
Does HPD have a central tracker of all their projects that are in the works and that could that are publicly funded in this way?
We have an internal tracker of projects that are in our pipeline, and then we report out on projects once construction closing has happened.
And does the prioritization of HPD closings, how does that include Mitchell's? Does it just come down to the management, the timeline of the project, if it's fully financed?
Yeah, it comes down to whether or not the project is ready, and our project managers work with the development team and the owner to get them as ready as possible, as quickly as possible.
I only ask because, and granted, Jamie Towers is a state Mitchell, but HPD is the one that, from the money that I allocate through my capital budget to Jamie Towers, they're dependent on HPD's assigning them a project manager in order to move the process along. And overall, in my district, I've dedicated nearly $12 million in capital dollars to modernization and repairs on Mitchell-Lama campuses, but I've given Jamie Towers 4 over my first term, and my assembly member recently allocated another 4 to them, but they have not been able to move any of that money over the last 3 budget cycles because HPD has not assigned them a project manager. And so for me, that's a hindrance to how the progress of that project can move and whether or not people can move freely within the campus themselves. And I'm just interested in understanding if the money is all there, their financing is in place, but we've gone 3 closing cycles without getting them a project manager and on the closing list, what more does a campus like Jamie Towers need to prove that they need their project to be completed and started?
Yeah, and we thank you for the support with the ResOA funds, and every council member, I think, does their best to put as much towards the Mitchell-Lama as possible, and we're very grateful for that. We can look more into the timeline for a project manager being assigned, but like I said, we're in the process of staffing up. We were able to get a lot of new hires, and we're working as quickly as we can to get them on board. And then once they're on board, to ensure the project is actually ready to close. If ResOA is assigned to a project, it does not necessarily mean that everything is in place for a construction loan closing. There could be ResOA available and a project manager unassigned. Not great, but on the development team side, the ownership side, they might not have done any of their due diligence or prepare for a closing as well. So it's a little bit of a give and take of ensuring we're getting somebody assigned and helping the owner or the co-op board drive the project to a construction loan closing.
Well, I'd love to continue that conversation offline now with this campus itself having $8 million from the state and the city. I hope we're in a better place to move that along.
Yeah.
I will follow up with the additional questions I have because I've gone over my time, but thank you to both of the chairs, and thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder for folks that are here from the public, if you haven't signed up to testify, if you could sign up with one of the sergeants in the back, that'd be great. Okay, so we have Councilmember Aldebal, followed by Brewer.
Good afternoon. Thank you for testifying today. 1950 Hutchison Parkway Apartments. It's a co-op, Mitchell-Lama co-op in my district in the East Bronx. In the FY27 budget, I worked to secure funding to cover one of the major capital projects of the apartment complex. And by taking that large maintenance cost off, that capital cost off the books of the property, the goal is to decrease the need for major maintenance increases. So my question is kind of in line with Councilmember Farias. What accountability measures does HPD have in place as part of your oversight to ensure that these savings are passed on to residents? And, the controller's report included findings about financial oversight failures across New York City and New York State managed Mitchell-Lama properties. City Council report also cited returned funding from past fiscal years due to mismanagement and, money not used despite the obvious need for capital improvements. What oversight measures does HPD have to ensure that money allocated towards specific projects are used appropriately? And how can we move these projects through the pipeline faster? Because, we can allocate money, but if it takes years for these projects to happen, the costs just go up, and then it feels like this cycle that we never can get over. So just if you have any ideas of how to move that, time is money also.
It absolutely is.
So how, what ideas do you have to get these projects moved more timely so that the costs don't keep escalating over time?
So thankfully, that project that you reference is in the pipeline. Yes, I know. The additional project managers that we have at HPD and that are currently being hired and onboarded will do a lot to move through the development pipeline. Like I said, it's not just Mitchell-Lamas that will benefit. It's going to benefit all of the affordable stock that's coming through the preservation pipeline. The amount of capital that we put into a project, obviously, it's going to improve the conditions of the building, and it'll probably lead to reduce repairs and maintenance expenses in the short to medium term, which could help mitigate the increase that the residents will have to pay. The other tools that we have available to us are trying to get more creative on the operating expense side. So like I said about the J51 reauthorization, that will be really helpful to pair with capital improvements to ensure that the increases are not as high as they would have been without J51.
My other question is really about getting getting people who are eligible for SCREE, DREE, or any other benefits. Have you worked with other agencies? I know that in the Mitchell-Lama, developments in my district, they have become, naturally occurring retirement communities. Yeah. We have a lot of seniors who live in Mitchell-Lama, and are you working with the Department for the Aging? Are you working with other organizations that work with our seniors to make sure that they're getting all the financial assistance that they need to stay in place?
So we are working with outside stakeholders, community-based organizations when we can. And I said earlier, I'm so thankful to the council members who have reached out and worked with us to do workshops, and some of them have done office hours, and our teams have worked with the council members to actually go through applications with their constituents. And I will also say that over the past year, we have done 25 SCREE outreach workshops just over the past year. And so we're always willing to partner with community-based organizations that make sense.
Do you have a sense of how many people are maybe eligible for SCREE or DREE and have not applied? And if the income threshold is increased to $75,000, how many more could that represent?
I don't think we have that projection available right now. But when an increase is going to be scheduled, like my colleague Alika had mentioned, we will do everything we can to do outreach and to engage seniors to ensure that they understand the eligibility requirements. Again, the pre-filled applications are very helpful, and we'll work as best as we can to get households signed up.
And I mean, rather than have, smaller percentage increases over time, I mean, it's not New York City, but we have a Mitchell-Lama co-op that just got a tremendously huge increase after 10 years of not having increases, and their response to me was, well, we've had to do all these capital improvements, and but it's like, why did we get to this point where now they're scrambling to do all these capital improvements, and they obviously have to balance their books, and instead of doing it on a year, balancing their books on a yearly basis and having a more,
Regular schedule
of maintenance and and capital improvements or whatever needs to happen in that building. I'm like, I've been in Tracy Tower many times. I used to represent the workers there.
Yeah, I think that's a change that we would
there's
welcome.
there are wage increases and benefit increase for the staff. For the workers there. We're not going to not raise wages and benefits over time. We're not going to wait 10 years for people to get a wage increase. I mean, that has been happening, over time, and the needs and the recurring maintenance needs, happen over time, and waiting 10 years to fix the problem on the backs of tenants is, really unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I would say as like a former underwriter for affordable housing, like we would welcome regular increases at Mitchell-Lama's if they came to us with the request, right? To have a little bit of a stable, instead of waiting until we're not meeting our expenses, the capital needs are out of control, and we're in a crisis moment. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Brewer?
Sorry, Councilmember Brewer, just before you ask your questions, I just wanted to address Councilmember Aldable that citywide, not with respect just to folks living in Mitchell-Lama, but we have 158,214 households that are eligible for SCREER-DREE, but only 67,132 households received the benefit in 2023. So Councilmember Dinowitz passed a great bill to try to bridge that gap, but it's a really big gap in service for people. Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you, Julie Walpert, for 30 years of help, or 40 years. I lost track. I don't know anybody else, but I do appreciate all of Julie's work, and also Jackie and Katie and Dick Heiler and everybody who's been doing this. Bob Willis, may he rest in peace. My question is threefold. First of all, I was not a big supporter of Cadman Towers going from Mitchell-Lama to HDFC, so I hope that's not going to happen in the future. Can you update me?
Yeah, we don't have any Mitchell-Lamas at the moment that are.
I know, but I want the policy to go
from
away.
2 to 11. We don't have any that are trying to go from 2 to 11.
But are you interested in getting rid of the policy altogether? So, because this is supposed to be about affordability.
I mean, I would just actually say that I don't think we are in a position to say that policy should go away, because I would always put it back on the residents and the shareholders and what the people actually want in their buildings. And when you speak to some people there, they feel that it was
I know, but I'm just saying
thing.
we
So
also
I'll say that.
Okay, I don't agree with it. We have to be, think bigger, because people want to make money, and I understand that, but I still think it should return. So I want that. Maybe we'll put it in writing and try to pass a law, because we don't want any more conversions like that. Number two,
think the changes in 2021 have slowed down the amount of conversions.
Okay, I still worry about the future. Lots of same situations. I've got. Let's see, I certainly got Trinity House, and they want to postpone their July 29th because they have such a large increase being projected. Same problem. So I'll contact you, but I want to have more discussion about these things, because it's huge. Even though they haven't had it in a while and it's not a bad owner, it still needs to be postponed. So we need to do that. Clinton Towers, a mess. So that's the same issue. Who's overseeing the construction? Every single day I get calls from the residents. How does that pan out. Why is it? I think we need, and I suggest this to the chairs also, we need like a round table, everybody sitting in the room, state, city, those of us who have Mitchell-Lamas. I've been doing this work in 1978. That's how long I've been doing Mitchell-Lamas. And it has to be a discussion. We want Mitchell-Lama 2.0, but we can't figure out 1.0 yet. So I would love to see this roundtable take place. But meanwhile, Clinton Towers is a mess. The board is a mess. The management is a mess. All my friends, I know them all, but it's not working. So how do we handle something like that? The balconies, the lobby, the money, the everything. The Con Ed bill. I spent hours on the Con Ed bill.
Yeah, can I ask a question about has there been a roundtable since 1978?
No.
I mean, we're happy
Not
to host
since Bob Willis was alive, to be honest with you. Okay.
It's good to know.
Yep. So anyway, Clinton Towers. What's an example of how do we get that so that the construction is taking place and there's less angst? Any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, so we currently do. Yeah, so we have current weekly calls because it's in our pipeline, correct? And we have weekly calls to prepare for a closing. So we have a project manager that's working with the development team to get to a construction loan closing as quickly as possible.
Okay, we can have further discussions. It's very, very challenging. 110 West End Avenue, also with a huge increase as a Mitchell-Lama co-op in this case. So is that something that you're working on? How would I be helpful, or how could I be helpful so it's not such a huge increase?
So Lincoln Amsterdam, they haven't had a maintenance increase in 25 years.
Yeah.
And the maintenance is affordable to below 30% of area median income. And with the increase, it will continue to be affordable to 30% area median income. And they can't pay their bills. So it's not a construction issue. It's not they don't need capital. It's just they need expense money to pay their bills.
Okay, so you're thinking that it's an okay increase at this point.
30% is large. It doesn't matter, like for anyone. It's it's a large increase, but they need to do the board actually, it's a co-op, and the board came forward with asking for this because they
Yeah, but there's still angst in the building. As you know, every single co-op has a co-op board, and then they have the shareholders, and they don't always get along, right? You know that. So you can say about the board, and maybe I know that board very well, but that's something to always be aware of, are the shareholders versus the board.
Right, but they're doing their fiduciary responsibility in this case.
All right. And then the report that the state controller, which was mentioned earlier, Clinton Towers is one of the disasters on that. How are you addressing that report that this controller came up with?
So we put together responses for the comptroller report, and we actually had a follow-up meeting this morning on one of the audits with the state comptroller.
All right, so you're going to share that with us, particularly if it has to do with our buildings?
Yeah, I think our response is foilable.
Okay. And then finally, roundtable, you'll host it, you'll invite the state, and we'll all be there.
I'd love to.
I'll pay for coffee. Thank you.
We're holding you to that.
Nice. Councilmember Wilson, followed by Epstein.
Thank you, chairs. So I appreciate the commitment to and attention to Mitchell-Lama's, particularly as outlined in the block-by-block plan and the millions of capital dollars committed. I do have a question about Article 5 co-ops. So that I have in my district, Penn South, which is nearly 3,000 units of the housing. It's often mistaken for Mitchell-Lama, but it's actually not. It's but governed in a very similar way. But the way the provision are written right now, they don't have access to the capital funds. So I'm curious, how do Article 5 redevelopment co-ops fit into the plan for?
So they can apply through our HPD's preservation pipeline like any other affordable housing development, regardless of, incorporated under Article 2, Article 11, Article 5, they're eligible for city capital funds. So we would urge the development to put together a loan application with an IPNA to work through our pipeline.
So they're not excluded?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, that's good news. They thought they were.
There's a win.
That's it. I just had one question. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Epstein?
Yeah, I want to just go back to what you said earlier about waiting to hear from Mitchell-Lamas who haven't done an increase in 20 or 30 years. I'm wondering why wait instead of just reach out to them every year saying, hey, we advise you to do at least a 2% increase, or ways you can do it over time instead of having to see, like Councilmember Dinowitz saw, a 30 or 50% increase. I have a Mitchell-Lama that had a 10, 15, 20% increase for year after year after year, and that it's impossible for the residents to manage. Why not take an affirmative position to try to get them to apply for those increases and make a constant, like a 2% every year?
So we do make recommendations, right, to folks. Once we get the financials and we do a review, we make a recommendation about whether or not they should increase their rents or maintenance fees. As somebody who worked with HDFC co-ops for nearly 8 years, it is sometimes very hard to get a co-op board to raise their own maintenance fees to cover expenses and and cover capital needs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
leave it there.
I represent hundreds of HDFC co-ops. I represent 4 Mitchell-Lamas. I've never heard from HPD saying, hey, we really are recommending this Mitchell-Lama do an increase. Can you help us set up a meeting with them? Can you encourage the board to propose an increase? Why not collaborate with your partners in government to make sure that happens?
I mean, we would be happy to collaborate with anybody.
I would love that, because we know our Mitchell-Lamas. We talk to them regularly. We don't see their finances, so we don't know what they're doing. The only time we hear about it is when there's a proposed increase and they're asking for 20%. And everyone's, oh my God, this is crazy. We would rather see a 2% increase every year to ease it out over time. That's easier for folks.
Yeah, and I think under this administration, we'd be happy to reach out
Great.
a little bit more proactive.
Great. And it sounds like with the Gale Brewers Roundtable, we can talk about all these amazing issues.
Dying for a roundtable.
I'm looking forward to it. I want to be there, so please invite me to it. Can ever these Mitchell-Lamas get to 0% tax? I know we talked about, I'll take the win on the reduction from 10% to 5% on the shelter rent tax, because we did that last year in Albany. We wanted to get to 0, but we'd love to see the administration support that next year to go to 0. I hope HPD will be on board. But there are other ways to get to 0 through J51.
Yeah, so you took the words right out of my mouth. We can't get quite to 0 with J51, but we can get as close as possible, depending on the capital work.
Yeah, any other available options for you to get closer to 0?
I don't think, but besides J51, I think that's the biggest tool in our toolkit at the moment to get to as close to 0.
And is there a reason we can't get other tools in your toolkit to help you get to 0 besides making them put lots of money into capital improvements to get it to 0?
This could be a topic for the roundtable.
Yes, I love this. All right, I'm gonna keep going if I can. Just a couple more. Okay, sorry about that. And so why not put capital dollars on the table? You're asking us to use our resume money. Why not have HPD match us? We put $1 million, you put $1 million, and we all walk away happy. Why not do that? We do that for NYCHA. We do that. Government money comes in for NYCHA. We put money in for NYCHA. Why not meet us halfway and do some free money for Mitchell-Lamas too?
Yeah, so we usually do far more than a couple $1 million, right? When we do a preservation outcome or a larger recapitalization, we're usually putting in a lot of city capital.
But this is loans, not grants.
They're loans, but they're structured on what the project is able to pay. So I think in the case of Tracy Towers, we're not requiring any payments on the HPD debt. It'll defer and accrue.
So you're willing to give forgivable loans in these situations?
They're not forgivable. They'll balloon at the end, but there's no principal and interest payments due.
And why not do forgivable loans?
I don't think that's within our authority to do. I mean, that's a larger question that I don't know if I'm fully able to answer at the
Another
moment.
roundtable conversation. I love this.
Roundtable two.
More opportunities. I'd love to see the city give more money to help Mitchell-Lamas. We know they need the money. We want to help them as much as possible. I'm just a little concerned that we're not using all the tools in our tool belt. Did you say you got to help advocate next year to reduce the shelter rent tax to 0? I didn't know if you sent that response.
I don't think I said that.
Okay. Can you say that?
I don't think I said that.
Will you say that?
J51 is a really, really good tool to pair with capital improvements. To get our
It sounds like another conversation to have. And I wanted the last question. I know Councilmember Banks flagged the issue of potential development projects on our Mitchell-Lama land. I'm wondering how you balance the issues of needing more affordable housing versus, the potential value of that land. And so how do you make that determination about the need for the affordability, because we need more affordable housing, and the need for making sure the Mitchell-Lamas stay whole? What is that decision process internally?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to have to be a case by case basis. It's, we have to look at the available land in each Mitchell-Lama. Not every Mitchell-Lama is going to have a ton of development space available. So I think looking at the capital needs, the available land that we could develop on, I think everyone might have to be its own unique snowflake. But in collaboration with the city council and if it's co-op with the board, I think we can get to a really good place to ensure that there's additional funds going to mitigate increases and pay for capital improvements outside of the city budget.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the chair's indulgence. I'm looking forward to this exciting roundtable.
All right. Are you bringing snacks? Refreshments?
Always snacks.
Okay.
But they're going to be vegan. You okay with that, right?
That's as long as it's free. Thank you for hanging in there with us. That concludes the first round of questions. We'll have a second round. So I just want to wrap up a couple of more questions that I had. And just to kind of recap, right? I feel like every single council member has said a version of the same thing. Maintenance increases should be gradual. We want to be a partner. We want to help so that we're not seeing dramatic increases that are making up for multiple years at a time. So more to come at the roundtable, but certainly want to be a partner on that. And just a follow up, you said so HPD is receiving annual financial statements. Is there any? Are there other indicators that HPD is receiving regularly from Mitchell-Lama properties? And how are you taking that information into account in terms of assessing risk?
Yeah, so the financials are the key indicator of the financial health and sometimes the physical health of the building. We also get vacancy report, outstanding payables. We can also see online, what the violation profile looks like.
And on the topic, that's perfect segue to my next question is outstanding payables. One of the things that we hear about a lot in Kingsbridge Arms, for example, is that there's a lot of shareholders that are behind on their maintenance fees. It's an issue at HDFCs and just so many co-ops. What does HPD have to offer these co-ops that are having these governance challenges and working with their shareholders?
Yeah, so do you want to?
Yeah. So our housing supervision team will provide actual training, technical assistance training, working directly with the boards on how to govern their buildings and what to look for. And so we do that in-person training, we do virtual training, we have online webinars available. And so we're constantly looking for other opportunities to partner with organizations to do that. And I also, because we're sitting here, just want to lift up the fact that we have asked for resources and funding to be able to really get into building the capacity of these boards and work with our managing partners. So we're doing all we can, but we would also like some resources to do more.
Okay, let us know how. You know the deal. Well, we're always here to advocate for those funds. I had a specific case. It's not a Mitchell-Lama. It is an HDFC. But I think the issue carries over in terms of, a building that's was not able to submit for whatever reason their property registration, that has a lot of shareholders that are in arrears, that has wanted to take folks to court and seek an eviction. Julie and I were speaking 2 days ago with members of the team about this very question. In addition to technical assistance, is there legal support that HPD makes available? Are there partners that offer that, or is this a gap that our city has?
Yeah, so we don't offer those types of legal resources, but there are not-for-profit legal resource providers out there that hopefully we can connect those folks to.
Any you can name so I can go back and tell?
I think we can share that after, if that's okay, if any come up in my memory.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
No problem.
We can share it, and we have a whole request and ask for it.
Perfect. Perfect. AEP and Mitchell-Lama's. I want to make sure to get this on the record today. I represent a Mitchell-Lama that is in the alternative enforcement program, which makes absolutely no sense from the perspective of wanting to preserve affordable housing, but then we're, as a city giving these buildings all these violations and increasing their debts to the city and their financial responsibilities. What is the position of the administration on Mitchell-Lama's and affordable developments being in the AEP program?
So when you look at the development side and the pipeline of projects coming through HPD, and then the code enforcement side, there is, and I think there always has been, kind of a pretty strong firewall to ensure that the housing maintenance code is being enforced appropriately. AEP, when a building's in AEP, it's a really good indication that a larger preservation and stabilization outcome needs to happen, and we should be able to apply resources to those types of projects to get them out of AEP.
Great. Thank you. Look forward to more conversation on that. And then my final question is coming from some of our friends in advocacy is, does HPD have an accounting for how much of carrying charges increases are due to capital expenditures versus more of the operating costs? So you mentioned utilities, you mentioned insurance, but do you have a sense of the relative reason for the cost drivers?
So not off the top of my head, Julie. Yeah, I was going to say it's almost always just the operating expenses. We have the ability to structure our debt in a way where the residents don't have to pay towards our debt service payments, right? So we'll defer and accrue principal and interest, and there's a balloon at the end. And in that way, it mitigates the increase on maintenance and rents.
Yeah. And 101 question, what happens to the balloon at the end?
I mean, it gets rolled over. Usually we refinance
It's
it.
refinanced again
it's
in
a little bit
exchange
of a way
for
to-
affordability restrictions for longer.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Thank you. Councilmember Dinowitz.
Well, I had similar questions about the debt. But first, I'm also excited for the roundtable. I will be relying on Councilmembers Epstein and Brewer for snacks. I would just also say that limited equity co-ops like the Amalgamated Cooperative should be included, not Mitchell-Lama, but in the same sphere, right? So that it functions similarly and they have some of the similar issues. So I would say that they should be part of this roundtable as well. I need you to help explain how the debt works, because as I was starting in my first round, Tracy had a $40 million loan. The interest was $106 million. It was refinanced to about $147 million. I'm hearing you testify, well, we can't forgive the loan, but we just roll the loan over and it's no interest and it keeps growing. That's what I'm hearing. It keeps growing. And at no point ever in the future do those payments ever have to be made. Is that accurate?
So we use if principal and interest payments aren't being made on any portion of our existing debt, there's a balloon at the end of the loan term. So after 30 years, our balloon is there. And as Councilmember Sanchez so eloquently put, it's our hook, right? So by us having existing debt, and if it's a large balloon, then we're able to ensure that the project will stay within an affordable program for the longer term.
So none of the rent increases or maintenance increases are due to debt, the need to pay off any of these loans, any of this debt?
For Tracy Towers, the HPD debt that is in the project, none of the increase is going to pay towards the new capital that HPD put into the project.
Okay,
or will be putting into the project.
I'm not talking about the new capital. I'm talking about like the old capital, right? The all of that interest that accrued over the years. They don't. I'm hearing different things. They don't have to pay it back. I'm just trying to understand if any of that does have to do with the rent increases for Tracy.
So different lenders, right? Okay. HPD has its own city capital that's contributed to the project, and then there's I don't fully have the debt breakdown with me, but HDC has a first mortgage, and that one gets paid off. So typically, when we structure our loans, there's usually a private lender, and that private lender will require principal and interest payments, and then HPD comes in with subsidy, and those subsidy payments, or that subsidy doesn't require principal and interest payments, and the loan defers and accrues, and there's a balloon at the end of the 30 years. So the debt that's in first position, that requires debt service payments. The city capital we put in does not require debt service payments.
All right, can you provide a breakdown of the city capital versus the private capital for Tracy and all of the Mitchell-Lamas? Because we were told, I think, that the rent increase is due in large part to the debt service. Otherwise, the building is underwater. But my second, that'll be for later. The second question is about other loans that have been taken out and HPD's oversight over those loans for capital improvements. In 2016, There was a $40 million loan taken out for elevator repairs, elevator upgrades, boiler, roof. And I mean, you were in Tracy Towers. The elevators have clearly not been upgraded. That was in 2016. The roof is leaking, so it either wasn't done or wasn't done well. So I'm asking about the oversight. What oversight does HPD actually conduct to ensure that the money that is being borrowed, that eventually has to be paid back by the tenants, that work is actually being done and being done at a quality that is not, they're not paying for just a few years later with leaky roofs and broken elevators?
Yeah, so monthly we monitor construction, and in this case, it sounds like there was a HDC was the private first lender, and they would go out and do monthly inspections to ensure that the work was completed, and then once the construction person from HDC and the architect sign off on the work that was completed, then the payment is made to the contractor. So
Do you have
every
copies
month,
of those documents where
every month somebody is going out to the building, and then every month a requisition is submitted, and that's how the contractor gets paid for work that was completed.
Okay, are those documents public? And please share those documents with us, where HDC or the contractor said this work was completed. Do you have those documents available to you?
I mean, I don't know if we have them available at the moment. HDC is a different agency than HDC.
No, I understand, but you work in collaboration for the purpose of supporting people at our Mitchell-Lamas.
Yeah, I mean, we could see what they have.
Okay, we should see copies of those because the work wasn't done, right? We have the documents that say the money was borrowed for maintenance. It's rehabilitation. There was 1.6 for an elevator upgrade, 2.4 for the boiler roof, 600,000 for elevator modernization. And if you're testifying that someone has to sign off on that every month and the work wasn't done, that means someone did something wrong. Second,
I also want to note, since I am testifying, the scope of work is very specific, right? Okay. So an elevator repair upgrade is not an elevator replacement. That scope of work, those are two very different things. Roof repairs is very different than roof replacement.
But
so those scope of work items are completely different.
But I don't think any private homeowner would accept work where they completed repairs on the roof and that work and the roof the next year is leaking. And we shouldn't accept that as a city either. And that's why I'm interested in getting these documents. I understand it's not your agency, but we are in the same city, in the same city government. And if we're all working together for the betterment of the residents of our Mitchell-Lama developments, we should be all be getting those documents. And if it's happening at Tracy, it's happening at all of the Mitchell-Lamas or many of the Mitchell-Lamas around our city where work is done and there's no oversight as to the quality of work. Now, there is a $36 million capital plan. I believe the work was, when you came to visit, the work was supposed to start in June. Is that correct?
The loan closing was in June.
Loan closing. And when does the work begin?
So probably in the next couple months, I would say, for any construction project, Mitchell-Lama or not, after construction loan closing, there's a period where the construction crew and the contractor will continue to pull permits, continue to get all of their paperwork in order, and then mobilize to be able to start construction work.
Okay,
and that's typical across every project.
Given that this is under the city-run Mitchell-Lama, what can HPD do to expedite those permits to make sure that work is done in a more timely fashion than we typically see in our offices?
So sometimes, and I'm not 100% familiar with this project, but in some circumstances and a lot of circumstances, we require permits to be pulled prior to closing. I don't know exactly which permits need to be pulled for this project, but we make every effort with all of our affordable housing projects to ensure we're communicating with DOB and that our projects are getting permits pulled quickly.
We see, and I'm glad Amalgamated is here, we see a lot of costs accruing because of delays of things like permits or in their cases, DOB inspectors coming in. And again, I understand it's not your agency, but you work in the same administration, you work in the same government. And so you should be doing everything for our affordable housing to expedite those processes. Otherwise, my office tries to do it, but we're a different branch of government. You are in the same branch of government as these other agencies. And that is a way to make sure the residents of our Mitchell-Lamas and our limited equity co-ops can get the housing they deserve and save money by not in their case, by not having those sheds up for months and months on end. And that was the case at Tracy Towers, by the way, in the late 2010s, when they had their sheds up for years. It was years, and it wasn't until the controller made a call in, and it was gone, right? Like, these are just bureaucratic hurdles that cost residents money.
Yeah, and part of the speed report that was released tries to get to the root of some of those problems, is to kind of get out of our own way to make sure we can do development much more quickly and much more transparently. Excuse me. So speed was a big attempt at moving that forward.
I want to ask about the $36 million of Tracy. It is for elevator replacements. There were security elements in there, I believe. Like the gate for the parking lot was one of those. Was cameras part of the scope of work as well?
Security system
from 2016.
I'm sorry, the $36 million recent one. Yes.
Okay, so HPD actually put in, I believe, around 40 million in city capital, and the scope is from broadly garage work, some plumbing repairs. Oh, sorry, that's phase 2. Elevators, facade, plaza repairs, security upgrades, playground improvements.
Okay, I just want to be clear. Tell me if I'm off base, but when you say HPD put in 40 million, what you mean is that the city council, through its City of Yes negotiations, allocated more funding and secured more funding for city-run Mitchell-Lamas, and Assemblyman Zaccaro secured $10 million, and the $40 million is actually a loan, correct?
HPD lent $40 million in city capital like we would to
Right.
any other affordable housing project.
Right.
So
It's-
40 million of city capital was lent to the project with deferred, no principal or interest payments due, fully deferring and accruing to the end of the loan term.
Right, but it is I just want to be clear. It's a loan, so this isn't the city investing money to improve. It is the city investing a loan that at some point has to be paid back. Right?
I mean, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Loans have to be paid back. I just want to make sure we're clear because, when we fight for this funding in the city government, or when our colleagues in government secure this funding, and we celebrate because we're going to see improvements to the building, and to find out later that this is just a loan, it feels a little different than it should. It's not
It's a loan where no principal and interest payments are due.
Until it's due.
Until the balloon is due at the end of 30 years.
Right. And then at 30 years, well, I guess their children will be dealing with it. I don't know. Yeah.
Have many more?
I have one more question.
Okay.
The same concerns about the elevators, the same concerns about the repairs, the loans that were taken out in 2016 remain the same today. The residents at Tracy Towers say, well, 10 years ago, they told us they were fixing the elevators and they're still broken. There isn't a day where all 6 elevators in either building are working. I think last we checked, you were there 40 times this year. The fire department had to come for the elevators. Those are not fixed elevators. And so for the residents of Tracy Towers, what guarantees do they have that HPD is conducting the oversight to ensure that the money that our tax dollars are being invested in, that we are investing in our affordable housing with these loans, that there's oversight over that and the quality of the work, and that if we replace all the elevators, that in 2 years they're not all going to break down again, that if they replace the roof, it's not going to start leaking in 2 years. What mechanisms do you have to hold accountable the people who do the work?
So like I mentioned before, we have monthly construction requisitions where the contractor's only paid based on work that has been completed. So there's someone from HPD because we have city capital. There's someone from HDC because they're the first mortgage lender.
I just want to clarify my question. I'm not sure I understood it. Maybe
No,
I
I
didn't say
think
it
I
right.
got it. I
After
think
the
what
work's
we're
done.
what we need to parse here is what is the actual scope of work? Is it a repair or is it a complete replacement? Those
Complete
are two
replacement of
different
elevators,
things.
which I think was in the scope of work for this particular building.
But not in 2016.
Not in 2016. So let's say 2026,
Yeah.
we're looking forward. Scope of work, brand new elevators, right? You have, let's just go with that one project. You requisition, the work's being done, great. After the work is completed and after the contractor has left, is HPD going to stay and monitor it to make sure it is continuing to function? Are they going to stay to hold the contractor accountable if it breaks down, if in 5 years they still don't have working elevators? Or is HPD's only job to make sure that the work is being done on a month-by-month basis?
Our main goal is to make sure that the work is done correctly at the time it's being done, right? So we're ensuring that the requisitions that are going through are being processed and paid correctly, and the work is done as it should. We can have oversight, and we can work with the owner to make sure that they are holding the contractor's feet to the fire. There is also typically a warranty period, right? So if after a year there are problems with the elevator, it's incumbent upon the owner to ensure that they are going back to the manufacturer or the contractor and holding them to the warranty standards. And that's standard across all affordable housing projects and co-ops or rentals.
Okay,
And just a little bit about housing supervision. The portfolio analysts will still be there. The constituent services coordinators will still be there. The technical services team will still be there. The engineers that work at HPD will still be there. So whenever there's an issue, we will still be able to call on folks across the agency to come out. And so it doesn't end when a project ends. We're still there.
It sounds like there's room to go and to grow in this regard, given the experience at Tracy. I see Amalgamated nodding their heads at all of our other Mitchell-Lamas. It seems like there's room to grow. I don't know if the 1-year warranty was a hypothetical or was that what the warranty typically is? 1 year?
It's a hypothetical.
Okay.
Every contractor is responsible for completing the
Right.
work to the owner. Typically, things that are installed have a warranty period. Typically, roofs have a warranty period, elevators, different mechanical equipment. It varies based on what's installed.
All right. It sounds like there's room to grow in this area and work to be done together on this, because the work done 10 years ago had a warranty and it wasn't fixed. And we're concerned the work going forward at any of these Mitchell-Lamas around the city, that we make sure as a city we are holding accountable these contractors who are ostensibly doing the work, and then it falls on the tenants to pay for more repairs after the work's done. And we know things go slowly in government, that a year, 2 years is going to go by before there's any oversight. We want to work together to make sure we're holding those accountable, to keep costs down, to use all the tools in our toolbox. And I want to thank you for your testimony. There's lots of work to be done on this to keep these rents down, to maintain that promise of affordability that was promised to us from this administration. I stand ready to work with all of you. The tenants stand ready to work with you, but they deserve dignity and affordability in their affordable housing developments. Thank you, Chair.
We don't clap in hearings. We do the silent approval gesture. But all right, thank you so much, Councilmember Dinowitz. I just want to add a note on his line of questioning around the scopes of work with finance through HPD funds. That this is something that we hear, and I know I still think about you sometimes as Councilmember Ampry Samuel. We hear this all the time about HPD finance work. Something that's financed 5 years ago is now starting to have leaks. There were all those articles about the South Bronx buildings, the luxury buildings that receive some HPD financing. And so it's just, it's an area that we want to make sure we have clarity on, and we know how to follow up with you when there are problems. I have a question from Miss Pam, who I don't know, who came to us from Councilmember Banks. So you're getting a question from Miss Pam via Councilmember Banks via me, which is, what steps have the supervising agencies taken internally to make sure owners are not leaving apartments empty past the 90-day window? The loss of rental income has a devastating impact on the financial health of these developments. A recent Mitchell-Lama meeting confirms this is a widespread problem for a number of Mitchell-Lama rental and co-op developments. And the second question is, will the agencies implement a plan to conduct a needs assessment or audit after year one of a 3-phase rent carrying charge increase to make sure that the second and third phase increases are necessary, and then provide a detailed report of their findings to the residents of those individual developments?
So the review of the future rent increases, we're looking at the income and expense statements and the audits, and can clearly see whether or not the increase is needed or not. In terms of the vacant units, we absolutely do not want vacant units in Mitchell-Lamas, right? We are in the midst of an affordable housing crisis. We are trying to build our way out of it. That is not the only strategy. We do want to ensure that any unit that is vacant is brought up to code and habitable and safe for a new family to occupy. And when we're having trouble balancing the budgets, when we're having trouble just meeting expenses, it leaves very little left over to do those repairs in oh God, I keep doing that, in individual apartments. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to wait for the larger capital improvements to make those upgrades.
Right. Got it. Thank you. And so just with respect to the second question of, you said you can see what increases are needed. Is there any circumstances in which a 10% increase this year means we don't need a 5% or whatever has been requested the following year?
I mean, it's project by project. We have deferred in the past. It is project by project. It is taking like a critical look at the existing expenses and projecting future expenses. If we can pull any other levers on the expenses to lower certain expenses, then that will absolutely mitigate any potential increase. So we keep a close eye on those things as the phased increases happen.
Thank you. And just another question, just piggybacking off Councilmember Dinowitz and the ballooning loans. Yes, they are technically loans, but they are actually kind of grants so long as you stay in the program. And so my last question is about who has stayed in the program. So 269 Mitchell-Lamas have been developed since 1955 statewide. Yeah. Can you tell us how much we have lost, how many we've lost?
60? Yeah. City supervised? Okay, 65 cities.
We've lost 65. So these are folks, Councilmember Dinowitz, to your point, that pay back their loans, right? And that's the way that you exit the program. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's when the loan comes due, is when a Mitchell-Lama wants to exit the program. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, with that, I want to thank you so much for your testimony today, for all of these hours of hanging out with us. But we really do look forward to that roundtable and, to make sure that Mitchell-Lamas and our affordable developments are, they remain front and center.
And I say this to all the agencies, but if there are folks that can stay and listen to the public testimony, I think that would be great to hear from some of the residents firsthand. Would be wonderful. So thank you so much for all of your time today. And with that, we are going to move into public testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so as they transition, I'm now opening the floor to public testimony. So before we begin, I remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. And as such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recordings or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait for your name to be called. Once you have been recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. And you may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. So I just want to emphasize that our council staff literally read every single word of your testimonies, and we take that back into consideration and for feedback. So I just really encourage you all, if you have other neighbors, friends that live in the residence that you really want to have to submit testimony, please make sure they do that. They have up to 72 hours from today to submit it to the email address. If you need it again, I can give it to you later. Okay, so when you hear your name, please come up to the witness panel. And, okay. Oh, you're good. Okay, so our first panel, we have Jean Hill, Ed Yeager, and Sally Stroman. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your names. So if you could please come to the front table, that would be great.
Are you ready?
Okay, great. So you can start in whichever order. I think you just have to push the button.
Okay, my name is Jean Hill. I'm the president of the Tracy Towers Tenant Organization. I'm here representing Tracy Towers, with a lot of my Tracy Towers residents here with me. I have been there since 1975. I've listened to everything that's going on today. I found some of it extremely interesting. I'll just give you a brief history of what's going on. So we got $10 million 2 years ago from the Assembly office to do work on the elevators and pointing. None of that work has ever gotten started. I don't know why they're holding on to this money. The elevators are constantly breaking down. People are constantly getting stuck in the elevators. The building leaks like a sieve because the plumbing is 52 years old. If they even touch it to go repair stuff, it breaks, it floods the building. We've had apartments that have been totally flooded in certain lines. One of the apartments, they had to run the hose from their outside hallway into their apartment because the whole apartment was flooded, and then back out to the terrace, okay? The people couldn't even close their door. So they had to go 3 days with their door wide open while this water's been sucked out of the building. We know that the leaks are one of the main problems. We know the elevators are a main problem. The fire department should have an apartment in the building. They're there so constantly getting people out. The 4th of July, the heat was on. It was 96 degrees outside, and they had the heat going on. This is just one of the many things that goes on in there. We know all of these things have been happening. We have pleaded, begged, cajoled. And the other thing that pisses us off the most, and excuse me for that word, they come in and they do this work. The work is substandard. They came in 2012. They put in new cabinets. The cabinets are all falling apart. They put in new windows. We were still using fuses, and they came in and put in breaker switches in 2012. That's how long it took us to get breaker switches in the apartments. So most of the work that they do there is substandard. They say they come back and they check. I have never seen anybody in there checking, coming back to say, is this work completely done correctly? Does the work stand up? They did the roof some years ago. They had a 20-year warranty on the roof. The roof warranty has not even expired, and they're back asking for money to do the roof again. We don't have cameras around the part of the building, so in the end, everybody can wander in and out of there at will. You know, they talk about they need all of this extra money for security. We know the security is substandard. Anybody could walk in. You could walk in there right now. Nobody would stop you and ask you, what are you doing here? You're going to see somebody. We have a system of supposed to be you can ring the bell, but that doesn't work. That hasn't worked since they put that in. So everything that they put in is substandard work, and it does not last. But yet you keep coming back to the tenants asking for all of this money, and we're not getting service for the money. And then you have all of these people who don't fall under any subsidy program. At least 60% of the residents are not going to fall under subsidy. And what are they supposed to do? Nobody's going to increase their salary because Tracy Towers wants more money. Okay, so where they're supposed to go find it? I have in the past had to work 2 and 3 jobs to pay the money. So I know what that's like, and raise a family at the same time. And you have people in there with small children. So we have a lot of issues in there that people really seriously need to pay attention to. I know Julie Walpert for the last 40 years. I don't know how long she's been there. She says less than that, but I remember at least seeing her at least that long. I know most of them from HPD. It's not that we don't send in the 311 reports. It's not that we don't make the complaints. It's not that we don't film everything. But it's like I'm talking to myself, and who's paying attention? So we are so glad to be able to come down here today. I know some of the council members. I see them on occasions. I'm also, work in the community. So but we really need somebody to really be paying attention to what HPD is supposed to be doing. It's what they say they do and what they actually do. And we're not getting the actual work. We're just getting a fantasy land. And we're tired of the fantasy land when we got to put good money out for it. Thank you.
Either one. Yes, you can go ahead, sir. Ed.
Okay. Ed Yeager, Chair of the Coordinating Council of Cooperatives and Amalgamated Houses, as Eric knows. I thank the council and the committees for holding this hearing. It's an important topic. I'll start with 2 key points. The hearing specifies Mitchell-Lama, but it's important to include all limited equity housing, limited dividend, redevelopment, as well as Mitchell-Lama, state supervised as well as city supervised. We're all New Yorkers. We're all part of this community. Second, one of the financial burdens we have is compliance with city policies. I'd like to recommend a task force including the council, staff, HPD, Department of Buildings, and management and board of limited equity co-ops. We can find ways to reduce the city's burden without diminishing our safety. We know the difference between safety and overzealous rulemaking that simply adds to our cost and doesn't reduce our burden. CCC are mostly large campus-style co-ops. We provide more than just housing, we provide community. Our members created the first NORC programs, allowing seniors to age in place and saving the city money on costs it would otherwise accrue for health, etc. We all need financial assistance. We're paying for years of deferred maintenance and years deferred carry charge increases. These developments all have income restrictions and were designed for people who could meet the maintenance charges, but now we're facing costs for rebuilding infrastructure, insurance skyrocketing, and the array of city mandates. We can't maintain the growing costs and maintain affordable housing. So if we work together, we can reduce some of those costs. And you have expertise. We who actually live there have expertise to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank this council. You were all spot on. You left me a little bit to say, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say anyway. First of all, the housing rate in New York City as of 2024 was 1.4%. Obviously, there need more housing to be built. That's a big question and a big job to do. My second question is, Mitchell-Lama programs are insufficient. Oversight, maintenance, backlog, financial mismanagement, and instability. The bidding process needs to be looked into as the same vendors work on developments over and over throughout the city. Secondly, when contracts are signed, why are there so many change orders? Every time there's a change order, for instance, if we sign a contract for plumbing, I'm just making up a number, let's say for $1 million. Why is there a change order that they missed something? They didn't look at something. They found something. That's a cost to the co-op. My co-op is not in a particularly unique situation, but it's throughout the city of New York. And I'm begging the council to come up with solution and work with all co-ops to have maybe a tenant committee where we can all sit down and address our issues to you, because we're the ones that's living in the conditions that I hear many of my sister co-ops, regardless if it's city or state. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do any of the council members have questions?
I just want to thank you so much for coming down. I know it's a long way. I think I saw you at the park the other day at Fort Independence Park, as Eric likes to joke. I'm always in his district. But thank you. I know. And then Miss Jean Hill is yours and not mine. That's okay. But thank you for coming. I hope that you know that we're going to continue to follow up on this. And as you heard, there's going to be this roundtable that we're going to put together. And so we'll let you know about that. And thank you, HPD, for still being here and hearing everything they have to say.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so do I.
Nice. Only one? Okay, so next we have Eric Furman. If you could come up, you have a solo panel. You by yourself. Oh, okay.
St. James Park, of course. Should I begin? All right. Well, first, I'd like to thank Chair Lee and Chair Sanchez and all members of the City Council present for holding this important forum, and also thank the representatives of HPD and other city officials for being here. This is a crucial meeting, but most of all, I'd like to thank the many tenants in the audience for speaking up. It's difficult for working people to take time out of their day to engage in democracy, but it's critical. So my name is Eric Foreman. I'm Director of Housing Policy for the AFL-CIO Housing Investment Trust. We are a social impact fund that invests union pension dollars in union-built affordable housing, new construction and preservation. HIT has invested since 9/11, when HIT launched an initiative to help rebuild the city's economy. We have invested $2.2 billion in affordable housing development projects in New York City. Of that, $569 million has been invested in Mitchell-Lama's and affordable cooperative housing organized under other articles. We want to applaud the city for committing capital resources to the cooperatives and the rental Mitchell-Lamas. We work very closely with the cooperatives that we have helped finance and refinance in order to meet their needs to keep the co-ops in a state of good repair while maintaining affordability. We also are a voice in Washington, D.C. We're a national fund for augmenting the federal resources that our city is very dependent on for maintaining our affordable housing stock. I think many great points have been made here. I've offered more detail in the two-page written testimony that I submitted, but in the last 20 seconds, maybe just want to leave you with a couple points. One is that from what we've seen, public investment is needed probably beyond the scale that has been committed in the capital budget to help stabilize the cooperatives. That said, private capital investment from sources such as HIT is a great resource. This is a moment where we all need to think big about how to preserve this resource. And in the process, we should make sure that we create good union jobs for tenants who are also workers all across the city. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Local 97.
Oh, yeah. Okay, next we have Ryan Schollenberger, Janice Brody, and Susan Peters.
No. When you're ready, just press the button. You want to go first? Because the two of us are together.
Sure.
I'm a board member for Clayton Apartments, located in Harlem, Central Harlem, on West 135th Street. Currently, our co-op, we're running at a deficit, at least $15,000 a month. We do have a IP&A in process, but it looks like we may need between like $25 million or more to get our building up to standard. We do have something in the process we need to get. We had a grant for like $150,000, but it turned out we can't get that unless we flip over another loan first. So we gotta get into debt further just to get a six-figure that we want to use for our double brakes for the elevator. We have to get that done by January 27th. So we're constantly operating in a deficit. And when I listened here earlier we're talking about in 27 and 28, we're going to have all this money in capital funding. And you just kind of broke it down by saying it's going to be a loan. It's not going to be an investment. We need investment. I mean, I think you need to look at the Mitchell-Lamas as being part of the city infrastructure. We shouldn't be treated as, I don't know, debt. We're being treated as debt. And basically right now, as far as, I mean, we went through a lot of numbers. I'm just going to throw a couple at you. Our insurance, $700,000 a year. We do have a lot of seniors. The SCREE, that's not even a Band-Aid. I don't know what it's going to cover. But when we look at where we're located, there's going to be one big project that's going to have over 1,000 apartments. It's called 145 on 145th Street in Lenox. You're giving them big tax breaks. There's going to be another building, 3 buildings across the street from us, big tax breaks, but we got to go into debt. So what we're asking for, we're not asking for a loan. We're asking you to come in, say it's capital, and help repair our building. We don't need another loan. We don't need a balloon coming, and we got balloons already. My building is 62 years old. So we are ready. We've been turning over till we can't turn over no more. We need help, and I'm trying to make sure I'm covering everything because I didn't know I had 2 minutes. So, Ms. Sanchez earlier mentioned the breaks that the rentals are getting, the tax breaks. The co-ops are not getting any breaks. And like I said, we got to repair the elevator by 2027. All these local laws, Fairfield Avenue co-ops, they said they was going to put together a petition, and they sending one to you. We're going to get a petition going to these local laws. Y'all should be covering, I'm sorry. Our rent can only cover operating. We can't cover the local laws. It's just a little bit too much. And I'm trying to go through all the figures of everything that we owe, but we need to be treated like we're infrastructure. And when you say capital, say capital. If it's a loan, then be true and say it's a loan. Because I was like, oh, yeah, we're getting all this money, 27, 28. And then you broke it down, and it's really a loan. We already in debt. So this is another board member. So I'm going to stop now and let him. Did I cover everything? Okay. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. My name is Ryan Schallenberg. I'm the vice president of the board. I'm going to try to say these things as quickly as possible. So you mentioned the loan conversion and how much of that, how much of the increases go towards the loan conversion. I can tell you that HPD approved for us for this year 15% increase, and that's only to cover the loan conversion. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, that's nowhere. It's a drop in the bucket to get us up to speed. So it's this idea that we're never going to pay the loans. We got approved. I know Yusuf isn't here today, but Yusuf Salam, he got us $150,000 for for 2026 fiscal year. We can't even get that until we pay to convert the loan. So it's essentially we've got nothing. Esplanade Gardens got $1 million last year. I don't know if they had to do the same thing, but they got that money. We got nothing. And Legionella's in the news right now. I know that's on everybody's. I got you. Don't worry. I know that's on everybody's mind. We had Legionella in our building for 3 years. When it happened, we were told by the Department of Health that we had to immediately take care of it. We got zero money. We had to pay over $250,000 to date. We're paying $6,000 to $8,000 a month to run a monocloramine system that we don't even need anymore. And we've had now 3 months of testing and been Legionella free. Now, why do we have that problem? Because we got 62-year-old pipes, and the Legionella keeps coming back. So if we don't get the money to replace the pipes, it's going to keep coming again and again, and then we're being forced to pay for this. Now, all these buildings in East Harlem right now are being cleaned out. They're getting the money ahead of time. We've been told we can't get that money back now that we paid for it, and it's put us in a huge hole, quite frankly. And that's the least of our problems. $25 to $30 million to update the pipes, the windows, the other local laws. I mean, I just don't know where to begin. Our insurance costs $697,000 a year. I appreciate that was addressed before, that you guys are going to do something about that. But this is a systemic problem for Mitchell-Lama. It's not just us. And okay, sorry. I think that's pretty much it. But We appreciate everything you guys are trying to do and will continue to do for us. Thank you.
And if you do think of something after today, make sure to send it in because we will review it.
I'm
If you
sorry,
do-
say it again?
If you no, I was saying if you do remember something after today, because there may have been some things that you forgot to mention, definitely submit that to us. For
Sure.
Okay.
Got plenty to send you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And, sorry, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Susan Peters, and I am a resident of the Upper West Side of Manhattan and a member of the American Monetary Institute, a 30-year-old 501c3 working for monetary education and reform. I am here sharing with you an important piece of information relevant to your responsibility for the finances of our city and its effects on our citizens, such as this rising unaffordability crisis. First, my background. I had a 37-year career as a data processing professional. The last 17 years were spent working for a Wall Street bank. I was responsible for reporting the daily activity of the corporate checking account system. Each night of the week, the system delivered a balance sheet which recorded each night $2 trillion moving daily through the 40,000 accounts. As the person responsible for the accounting application, I discovered to my surprise the special privilege given to private banks but not taught in our schools. Quote, every time a bank makes a loan, all it is doing is simply making a bookkeeping entry in the borrower's account for the full amount of the loan, end quote. This bookkeeping entry is new money and increases the national money supply. Thus, the money supply is composed of debt to private banks and generates interest to those banks. It's not taught in our schools or discussed in our public forums, but is significant to our understanding of our city's finances. That's why I'm here. Our government needs to study this. Please contact me with any questions. I can meet with any interested party and share resources for further understanding. And in here, I have some of those resources from the Bank of England and from a credit manager from a Federal Reserve Bank supporting what I've said. Thank you.
Great. I think Councilmember Dinowitz, you had a question?
Yeah, Mr. Schallenberger, you mentioned insurance costs. That was, I guess over the years, HPD has shared different reasons why rent has increased. Insurance costs are one of them. They're going up everywhere. Do you know how much you pay per unit for insurance?
If anybody's good at math, you can divide 697,000 by 162, and that'll give it to you.
I can't do
it. Janice is going to do it. Can I take this opportunity to actually?
$4,300.
This is.
So I just want to. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, $4,300 per unit for insurance. At Tracy Towers, it is also similar. It's $4,600 per unit for insurance. $4,600 per unit, roughly, for insurance. ANHD says that for affordable units, it's throughout the city, it's roughly $1,770 per unit for affordable unit per unit for affordable housing. And the Rent Guidelines Board's documents that for rent stabilized units, it's less than $2,000 a unit for insurance. Insurance costs are going up, but there is seems like a real critical discrepancy between the costs Mitchell-Lama residents are paying for insurance and what other types of affordable housing developments and apartments are paying for insurance. And this is one of the areas I believe HPD needs to use their, negotiating power, representing 46,000 units, to get better rates, because they are not in line with other types of affordable housing. And you all have to pay the price for those inflated insurance costs.
Thank you. I appreciate you addressing that. Could I have 10 seconds? Two other quick things? Okay. So the one other thing that I wanted to get to was the management companies, which people have talked about a little bit. There's a list of about 30 that are approved. Most of them are terrible. I'm just here to tell you. We've looked into all of them. We've talked to boards from different co-ops. They're very bad. I feel like it would be a huge benefit, and we've talked to some private companies who are willing to go through all the hoops to get approved by HPD, but opening that up is going to be helpful because I'll be honest with you, like we're trying. We've had management steal from us. We've had one of our managers is literally indicted by the DA. I don't know if she's in prison now, but like that happened. And like we've had shareholders that have had their monthly maintenance checks literally stolen multiple times. And these are the companies we're forced to work with by HPD because they only approve a certain amount. I'm not being critical of you all for that. I'm just saying that's where it stands. And the other thing, I promise I'll wrap it up, is the ability to raise funds, right? So some of the Mitchell-Lamas, the Upper West Side, they have commercial spaces underneath. They can charge rent for that. We have none of that. We have no, we don't have a big parking lot that we can sell. We don't have these like other creative opportunities. And there's some differences between the Mitchell-Lama co-ops, that essentially allow other ones to raise funds. And, we don't want to ask for handouts. We would love to be able to handle this internally ourselves, but the reality is we don't have the tools to do that.
Can I make one quick?
That's it.
There's something that I do notice that when buildings do leave the program, if they don't have commercial space, they rebuild it. They go in and they make adjustments, so in the future, they're going to bring themselves more money. I think as far as also looking at ways to save money, we need to look at ways if we can actually put commercial space in some of these buildings on the lower levels. If there's a way to upgrade it. My mother's building left the program, and they took part of the lobby, the sidewalk, and they put the whole avenue now is commercial space. We need to be able to look and do different things like that. And like the gentleman mentioned earlier, when y'all do your round table, you need to have some of us sitting there too.
Thank you
That's
so
all.
much.
Agree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, and I just want to say, I think oftentimes you hit the nail on the head that, because I'm a social worker and came from a nonprofit, so I often had to comply with a lot of the policies that the council members put in place. So we hear you when you say that it's difficult to comply a lot of times, which is why I brought up the question about Local Law 97. And I think that while well-intentioned, these are things that are going to impact folks in co-ops and condos like yours. And as someone who, I say this to all the residents here, right? I have the most number of co-ops and condos in my district in Eastern Queens. They're not Mitchell-Lamas, but they are housed with older adults, seniors on fixed incomes, union workers, teachers. And so we need to do more because the housing was meant when it was first built for post-war veterans and folks coming back. And we need to make sure that we're protecting that and not making you all have to pay on your backs to support a lot of the work that's going on. So we appreciate you coming all the way to testify, and I appreciate everyone who's here. I just wanted to say that for the record because you're taking time out of your days to be here. So thank you. Okay, next up we have Dominic Pukumensa, Richard Heitler, and Valerie Brooks. And please let her know she can still submit her testimony if she wants to. Okay, great.
Press the button. First of all, I do want to thank you for the opportunity to testify, also to attend the hearing. I come into this hearing feeling that I am speaking to friends and supporters. We appreciate what you have done to get more funding allocated into the budget, and we appreciate your support for Mitchell-Lama housing. My name is Richard Heitler. I have been a resident of Village East Towers on the Lower East Side since 1975. I'm older than all of you. And I've been on the board for 20 years, 18 of which as president. I'm currently the treasurer. I like to try to drive things to a number. I'm also a founding member of Cooperators United for Mitchell-Lama, as is Valerie, as is Sally, as is Sam Moskowitz. We already have a roundtable. It's called the Board Members Roundtable, and it's people who are pro-Mitchell-Lama got themselves elected to the board, and we share information and we do peer consulting about how we can do a better and better job. Now, as you can see, I have a 6-page testimony. I will not even attempt to summarize it in 2 minutes. I will hopefully say enough to at least, encourage you to read it. But I've been listening to the discussion and the debate back and forth, so I want to make some comments about testimony that I have not submitted, but will submit within the next 72 hours. We all recognize that rent increases are necessary. We are all horrified when they are this extreme and this sudden. And I want to say that I intend to, hi HPD, I intend to take Adam's invitation. He said, if anybody has a proposal for an annual rent increase, I would take a look at it. I have it. It's 9 pages long. I spent the better part of 8 months working on it and vetting it with various allies. And I'll give you the briefest summary. You got to scrap the whole complicated, unwieldy, unreadable 3-year rent increase system. You ask for huge schedules that none of our shareholders can read, and you produce an information when you finally get to the notice of approval, nobody understands what that means either. Okay? The system, I want to tell you what we're currently doing at Village East Towers and have for years, and the system that we propose. 1, it must be annual. If you really are looking at our annual financials, you can see immediately if there's a gap. It doesn't take a lot of math to fill it and figure out how much you need. You look at the operating deficit and the unpaid bills, and you come up with a proposal. And for this reason, I think scrap the 3 years. It's too complicated, it's too cumbersome. Rent increases have to be annual because nobody can actually anticipate what's happening 3 years down the road. Secondly, the system of review and approval has to take place in a period of between not more than 90 or 120 days. At Village East Towers, we have information meeting. Well, first of all, I'm the treasurer. I talk about finances at every open board meeting, and we have them monthly. And when can you give me a moment?
Yes, finish, yes.
I will be as brief as I can, but I need you to reset the clock. And it's the issue here is we have informational in-house meetings that are presided over by the board of directors and our accountant and our lawyer. And we explain to every resident exactly why the rent increases are needed and how much it's going to cost for their apartment. None of which is included in the notification letter that they will later get from HPD. And then we're done. And then we have to wait for HPD approval. We had a deadline. We're in the middle. We're in the second phase of a rent increase of 5 and 5 and 5. And it's higher than I would like, but it was needed. It is the third rent increase that I put through during my term as on the board. We knew that our previous 3-year rent increase expired, and we needed a new one by November 1st. We tried our hardest to do everything right. We got final HPD approval to put the next rent increase in effect on September 1st of the following year. That gap blew a $200,000 hole in our budget. And so if I have a theme, it is delays cost money. And we have to look at our system, see what's really necessary and what's not, and figure out how we can do it faster. My 6-page, the small one, testimony that you have in front of you has 5 points. The first of which is faster processing for loans. We have refinanced with HPD and HDC, and we love you guys. And the HPD people that I've worked with have been capable, dedicated, hardworking, and the system stinks. We are one of those co-ops. We're trying to figure out how you manage capital repairs, but we did an IPNA way back when, before anybody asked for it. And we developed a scope of work, and we started working with HPD to develop a major capital improvements loan. We have been working on that loan for 3 years, and we have not closed. We have been told that we will close by the end of the month, and I hope that's real, because I've also calculated the cost of that delay. Part of our IPNA included replacement of all the black pipe. The old brass plumbing, fabulous, but the drain pipes are cast iron and they leak. And we have been trying to patch cast iron, and when they leak, they flood, and ceilings and walls are damaged. So the delay has cost us several $100,000. We knew from our IPNA that we had to replace the water tank. It would not wait till loan closing. We did it ourselves. It was a hit on the operating budget. It should have been a capital expense in excess of $100,000. We got one of our local law 11 buildings done. We have 2 more to go. We cannot afford to do, because those 2 things totally devastated our reserves. We have to wait until we close the loan until we can do the local law 11 work. There's a kink in the code, although there is no danger of anything falling. If you have a condition that an engineer says requires repairs and you don't repair it in a year, then the sidewalk sheds have to go up. Sidewalk sheds are costing us $25,000 a month. The delay is going to, you add all these 3 numbers together, and the failure, we did everything right. We got an IPNA, we had a scope of work, we got the scope of work approved, we got it bid out. We had a successful bid in January of 2025. And the fact that we have not been able to close on the loan has cost us more than $500,000. The other pieces of my 6-page thing are 5 other suggestions for how to keep Mitchell-Lama affordable, and they're nerdy and they're small bore, and they should be easy. We also, in addition to the great big loan programs, we need a little loan program to repair vacant apartments. When an expensive piece of equipment goes down, it needs to be replaced.
Yep.
We need a loan program that can close on a discrete scope for a small amount of money in 30 days or less. That's my second point. My third is we need mortgages for new purchases. And if you want to speak, one of you guys talked about turnover and the questions of turnover takes a long time. A lot of it is the buyer has trouble raising the money and he can't get a mortgage. And Sony May will not do mortgages for Mitchell-Lama's or limited equity co-ops. I got 2 more. And
So if you could
one
just quickly,
sentence each.
Yeah,
One
quickly
sentence
summarize,
each.
yes.
I'm with Gail Brewer. You have to end 2 to 11 conversions. They just make the co-op less affordable. And I have my last one for my brothers and sisters in Mitchell-Lama rentals. Each and every one of them. We're very pleased that everybody's interested in TOPA and COPA, and I hope it passes soon. Don't forget the Mitchell-Lamas. Every Mitchell-Lama rental should have the option to become a Mitchell-Lama co-op and receive the technical support, legal support, training, and technical assistance needed to make a credible bid. And thank you for your time. And any of your staff members who want to talk to me about any of these things, you got my number on the sign-up sheet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. These are very thoughtful suggestions, so we appreciate it.
Can I get one more of your sheet?
Yes.
For the record?
Okay, and next we have, this one? Okay. Faisal Yusufu, Lami Yusuf, and Mamalo Yusufu. If you guys are here. Some of them left. Okay. Okay, if anyone else is here that did not sign up, if you guys could raise your hands. Okay, so if there's no one else, we're going to move over to our Zoom. There's a There's one or how many folks? Two? One. Three. Okay. There's 3 folks on Zoom. Yes. Oh, you had to test it. You have to sign up to test it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you want to come to the front, and then we'll get your information afterwards. If you could just state your name and where you're from for the
My
record.
name is Steven Toro. I live at Tracy Towers. And as we talked about before, RY management brought in the city of New York, what you call it, HPD. HPD was trying to tell us that we could sign up for the SNAP program. It doesn't feasible for me to sign for a SNAP program because my wife still works, but I'm retired. I'm over that 70,000 budget. When she files a tax return, I file with her. It puts me in a hole. I can't afford to go back to work. I'm disabled. I'm gonna lose my apartment because my wife can't make more money than what she's making now. So this Band-Aid that they offer us, I don't need it. I don't want it. Give it to somebody less fortunate, but help our building. That's all I ask. I'm not begging for a handout. I'm just saying work with us. I remember when I was young, I worked with organizations to help bring back our community. I was known as a tenant organizer for Bronx Neighborhood Community Corporation. Phase 1 of the Bronx system, 2, 3, and 4. We rebuilt old abandoned buildings. We took unemployed workers from the street to rebuild these built-out buildings back in the 70s into the 80s. Why can't we do that now? We don't need HPD. HPD is a Band-Aid. It's a systemic problem for our city. It should be taken out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I don't know if there's anyone else seeing. I think that's everyone who's here in person. We're going to move to, what is this? Okay. Oh, okay, got it. We're going to move over to Zoom, and I believe we have Sam Moskowitz. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm so sorry. There's something I'm supposed to read beforehand. My bad. So thank you to all who came here to share your thoughts and experiences. If there is, this one. Anyone in the chamber? Yeah. The hearing room who has not spoken but wishes to speak and not had the opportunity to do so, please raise your hand, fill out the card as this gentleman did. And going over to Zoom, if you're currently on Zoom and wish to speak but have not yet had the opportunity to do so, so we have 1 or 2 folks on. And for folks that are on that maybe have not signed up, if you could just raise your hand as well, so we can make sure to capture you, that would be great. Okay, so we're going to start with Sam Moskowitz, and then I think there is someone, Jean Hall I know was here in person, but I think there's someone else who may be using her account. So we'll start with Sam Moskowitz, followed by Jean Hall.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there in person, but I've been listening to every word online from my office. My name's Sam Moskowitz. I'm the board president of Gouverneur Gardens, which is a 60-year-old, 782-unit Mitchell-Lama co-op on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I really appreciate everyone who's still there and everyone who showed up today. I know preserving affordable housing for hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers is not as sexy as banning horses. So I truly appreciate you all being here. I know for me personally, this is the most important hearing of the day, even though we won't be reading about it on the cover of the Post tomorrow. So our community at Gouverneur Gardens represents both the profound success of Mitchell-Lama, but also shows the urgent need for structural reform. Over 70% of our residents are low income, many of whom are seniors aging in place, and we're currently undergoing a $54 million capital improvement project to replace much of our aging infrastructure. After serving on the board for about 10 years and building relationships with other Mitchell-Lamas, I'm very aware of the challenges we face. And I'm not here to complain, but I just wanted to come and give a list of recommendations. So first, I won't dwell on the skyrocketing insurance costs because it's already been covered at length. I calculated our unit cost is about $1,800 per unit for insurance, which has doubled over the past few years. And so I just urge you to do whatever you can to further subsidize these costs and help us out. So we don't have to further pass on these costs and burden our low-income residents. Second, which has also been touched on a lot today, is we really need to stop sacrificing the long-term stability of this program with short-term affordability. So for too long, the pattern has been don't raise carrying charges and deferred maintenance. The financial crisis facing us is not just a product of this recent inflation. It's a very
Your time has
predictable.
expired.
Sorry. Well, I did submit a full written testimony, and I have a number of recommendations, including requiring multi-year budget projections, standardizing the reporting for 1, 3, and 5-year budgets to transition developments from reactive crisis management to proactive planning. Like Dick said, adopt simplified zero-sum budgeting, simplifying the process with HPD to avoid these disruptive double-digit spikes, assisting us by allowing us to hire a owner's rep earlier in the contract process for capital improvement projects. Not doing so is a huge missed opportunity and costs our residents both financial resources and in their health. And finally, mandate the tracking of key indicators that would indicate financial distress, specifically vacancies and arrears. We budget for 5% vacancy loss, but it should be lower. But if there's co-ops that have higher losses, they need to be on some sort of corrective plan and helped by HPD in advance. So I did submit a much longer written testimony. Thank you all for your time, and thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much. And next we have Jean Hall.
Good afternoon. Trying to turn my camera on. Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time. Chair Lee and Chair Sanchez, members of the Finance and Housing Building Committee. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jean Hall, and I am the board president of the Rochdale Village, Inc., a state-supervised Mitchell-Lama cooperative, which is located in Southeast Queens. Rochdale Village is home to over 25,000 New Yorkers, including seniors, working families, and individuals living on a fixed or modest income. As one of the largest Mitchell-Lama cooperatives in the city, our long-term affordability is not only essential to our residents, it is essential to New York City's broader affordable housing landscape. And although we are a state-supervised housing company, the city requirements shape our financial reality every day, including Local Law 11, Local Law 97, DOB elevator and modernization requirements, city water and sewer rate structures, city property taxes, city capital and infrastructure programs, the city administered affordability tools such as J51, and the city council discretionary support for senior services and our dogs. Like many aging Mitchell-Lama cooperatives, Rochdale Village is confronting aging infrastructure, escalating operation costs, rising insurance premiums, elevator modernization needs, facade and roof repairs, utility and water costs that outpace our revenue and growth. Without modern financial tools, cooperatives like ours are forced to depend on maintenance increases that strain the very residents Mitchell-Lama was created to protect. Our 31.2 carrying charge increase effective November 2025 has pushed our community to the brink. Respectfully, I'd like to recommend and support two things: expand city capital programs to include
Your time has expired.
Mitchell-Lamas, and to create a dedicated Mitchell-Lama capital fund where we could get city capital funds to help us address elevators, roof, facade repairs, energy efficient upgrades, safety, and compliance. Thank you so much. We look forward to working with New York City. Rochdale Village stands ready to work with the council, HPD, HCR, and all partners to secure the future of our community. And we will submit a substantial written report revising and submitted to council. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jean. Okay, if there's anyone else on Zoom that would wish to testify and has not been called on, please use the raise hand function. And if not, okay, seeing no hands. Again, I'd like to note that everyone can submit written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. And we thank the administration and the public for attending this hearing to share their thoughts on the oversight topic today. And we look forward to following up on the issues. And with that, this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.